crash into a mountain.
Hey, running into a mountain isn't an art. It's a science.
Well, as long as we're stuck here, might as well have some fun. Welcome, lackeys and villains, to the Fire Festival. Dungeon crawl through Black Rock Mountain with the League of Evil. Let's show these elements who's the real king of the mountain. Next, test your skills with a random deck. But there's a twist. If you are defeated, you'll get a copy of your opponent's cards. Your reward for all this villainy? Behold, a mountain of spoils! Ours for the taking! Who's going to stop us?
Sulfur trespasser!
Oh, right! I forgot about this guy. Looks like we are going to need some more villains. In fact, you'll need to team up with your entire tavern to put out this fire. With every Black Rock boss we defeat together, more cards from our future in Old Doom will be revealed. There's only 25 million to conquer. So get to work! But be quick about it. The Fire Festival is only for a limited time, or until Dr. Boom can get Dalaran unstuck.
Welcome, recruits. I'm Alec Dawson, and today I'm here to teach you what it takes to be part of the League of Explorers. We need all the help we can get, because it's time to save Old Doom. First things first. Being an explorer can be dangerous. The League of Evil has already stolen Dalaran, but now they're unleashing plagues in Old Doom, and they keep shuffling bombs into our decks. Luckily, Old Doom is stocked with ancient treasures that may give us a chance. We've already sent some of our best explorers to retrieve these powerful artifacts. But we need you to go out into the field too. Here's your quest: raid the Sky Temple. That may seem like a lot of spells, but you'll get there faster than you think. Once we complete our quest, we'll get the hero power Ascendant Scroll, which adds a mage spell to our hand and reduces the cost by 2. Ascendant Scroll allows us to load up on cheap spells for cards like Archmage and Tinnitus. Because if there's a way to defeat evil, it's fireballs to the face. Make no mistake though, the League of Evil has been leveling up too. Evil was powerful in Dalaran, but now they discovered something even more nefarious: teamwork. Here's Weaponized Wasp, one of Hagatha's new secret weapons. The laser on its head, courtesy of Blastmaster Boom. Weaponized Wasp plays well in aggressive lackey decks that look to take forward control early. In Saviors of Old Doom, expect to see lackey build-arounds in Shaman and Warlock. But don't worry, we also have a secret weapon. Bees! No, really, one of our junior explorers found a bee-controlling device deep in Kartut's tomb. It took us a few days to decipher the instructions, but it's quite the powerful tool. Here they come now, it's bees! A new druid spell. This efficient removal spell excels in token-based druid decks. Need some extra pains for Knife Juggler? Bees! Need some extra bodies for Soul of the Forest? Bees! Need anything at all? Bees! All right, that's all we have for today, Explorer. We've got one more training session to go before you'll be ready for the dangers of the desert. So sit tight, and I'll see you out there in Saviors of Old Doom.
「私の名前は八島のぞみです。ハンドルネームはアルテムです。Twitter と Twitch は同じ名前でアルテムで登録してます。以前使っていたユーザーネームのマチャンプは、その時にプレイしていたゲームのお気に入りのキャラクターの名前をそのまま取った形だったんですよね。それで、前々から変えようかなとは思ってたんですけど、自分のオリジナルの名前を使いたいなと思っていて、で、 今回グランドマスターに選ばれた時にちょうどいい機会だと思って変えました。アルテムという名前自体に意味とか直接の語源はなくて、単純に文字の見た目と語感が、気に入ったというか、それで、この名前にしました。グランドマスターに選ばれたのを初めて知った時は、びっくりして、しばらくドキドキしてました。グループが発表されて、同じグループに去年の世界チャンピオンのトム選手と、あと自分が尊敬してる、トム選手も尊敬してるんですけどサレンダー選手や、他の選手もみんなすごいプレーヤーばかりで、その中でしっかり戦っていけるように頑張りたいなと思ってます。去年も世界選手権まではたどり着けなかったんですけど、今年はもう世界選手権の一歩手前まで来られてるということで、そこで競技できることにワクワクしてます。コンクエストの時と違って番がないので、今までの場合ランク戦で練習しようとするとバンしたいヒーローと対面することが多かったんですけど、今回はスペシャリストの場合はそれがないので、ラダーで練習しやすいのは自分にとっていいことかなと思います。アジア地域で一番お気に入りの選手はタイラー選手です。自分が競技的に始めてすぐの頃によく彼の配信を見て勉強してました。全地域含めても一番はタイラー選手ですね。彼らと同じステージに立てて単純に嬉しいですし、戦えることがワクワクしています。
Darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There should be scorching deserts, adventure and monster of narcissism. I'll stay speak annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save. Oh no.
Hello everyone and welcome to the final day of Season 1 Hearthstone Grandmasters. I'm Raven, and joining me once more, one for the road, is Derek. How's it going, mate? You looking forward to today?
I am. It's a somewhat bittersweet moment. I am loath to see the first season of Grandmasters come to an end, but I'm sure one player today will be very happy to see it come to the end as they book their spot in the global finals at BlizzCon.
Yeah, and they put a lot of work into this. This has been over the course of 8 weeks or so, depending on if you count in Vegas and then if you made it to playoffs, etc. But yeah, it's all coming down to today, basically. We have 4 players left in each region, and that's going to play out. So we'll have 3 players at the end of today that are going to that global finals in November at BlizzCon. Not a much better stage, in my opinion, to play on. Of course, any World Championship style stage is fantastic, but at BlizzCon, that's like the heart of Blizzard games across the board, never mind just Hearthstone.
I agree. I'm glad that we're seeing the end of the Hearthstone competitive year happening at BlizzCon. I felt like it was a little bit missing in the last couple of years, and I'm excited to see it go back. As you may see there, the Masters Tour events at the bottom as well, kind of highlighting some of the big tournaments that we have of the year. The Bucharest qualifiers for the final tour stop happening at the moment, so you could go to playhearthstone.com/esports if you want to take a look at how to participate yourself in some of those qualifiers and earn a spot there. And if you were to play in one of those qualifiers, you would be playing in specialist format, the same as all the tournaments this year are brand new format, which is a best of 3, 1 class, 3 deck format. You choose your 1 class and you build 3 decks of it, all of which have to share 25 same cards. Those 5 cards that you can swap out in your secondary and tertiary deck allow you to counteract and account for any strategies your opponent may be bringing as best as possible.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of discussion about Specialist as a format before and post and during GM. But I think for me, one thing I have enjoyed is it's created this meta game, at least, of just the uber triforce of Mage, Rogue, Warrior. And I feel like those matchups in a triangle are fairly even across the board. And that is just very interesting because it means the players are a little bit more free to play what they want to play, as opposed to going, oh, this deck's just the best, I have to play this. They have a choice as to what they bring. Yeah,
I feel like it's got positives and negatives when compared to Conquest. The downside, to some extent, can be you're only allowed to bring 1 class, so there's a little bit less representation. It's a distilled format down to, like you said, the 3 best classes. But in terms of individual cards, you get, in my opinion, a lot more representation, a lot more tech cards thrown around in there, which I'm happy we get to see.
That is true, and just in case you've either A, not been keeping up this weekend, in which shame on you, but most importantly whether you just need a quick reminder like I often do myself, these are the final 4 players of the day. Out of all 16 Asia Pacific Grandmasters, we have 4 left, and it's coming down to this: Staz versus Surrender, going to be kicking off today, but then Shaxy versus Alutemu. And this is the order we're going to play in. Staz versus Surrender first, which is going to be Hunter versus Rogue, and then the Mage Mirror for Shaxy and Alutemu. And then we move on to match 3, also known as the finals, which is going to be best of 5.
That's right. This is going to be the second time this year I think we've seen best of 5 specialist, as we obviously had that in the finals of Masters Tour Vegas between Dog and Gallon. It's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure how it will shake out and the strategies that come into it. I imagine it's fairly similar to a best of 3 style of play. You just try and win with your secondary tech.
However much it may end up being the same matchup multiple times, that's just kind of a bigger sample size, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world. Staz versus Surrender is coming up right now, though. We are going to get into it as quickly as possible as these players are raring to go. Staz on Hunter had a fantastic time of it earlier this weekend as we check out his deck. His group initially was 2 mage players in the form of Alutemu and Dawn, and he just whistled through, basically. Just 2-0, 2-0 done. Next, I'll see you on Sunday.
To be honest, it felt like what you see in the David Attenborough documentaries, where there's just a bear in a river full of salmon, and it's just kind of just slashing at everything and just eating. Like, the salmon are the mages in this equation, and Staz is the bear, in case you're wondering. He was just destroying everyone.
Or really, is it the other way round? Because the mage is the bear, and in this small circumstance, the salmon just slapped the bear in the face as it went past and then carried on upstream.
I mean, I think a more fitting analogy would be if the mage is the bear, Staz is like a missile launcher that just nukes the bear.
Just some kind of nuclear device. So, well, that escalated rather quickly, but my main point, as we somehow reel back into actual relevance, is that Staz had a great run of it in his group. But today, he is up against Surrender, who is on the Rogue. And Staz has said, yes, of course, Rogue versus Hunter for quite a long time now. Rogue has been the favoured player overall in terms of just how the decks work together. But Staz has said, you know, he has beaten Rogue in the past few weeks. He has took it on. He has got some wins against it. So it's by no means not doable. It's just going to be a lot harder than double mage for your first group.
Yes, he's definitely in with a shot. I would say his primary deck is reasonable, as we saw with one Scale Hide isn't great, you'd rather have two. A Rat Trap definitely helps though, and it's going to be such an important matchup for not only the player that wins and qualifies through to the final, but also for Alutemu or Shaxy. They're both in basically the same spot in the second match of the day, given that they both have mages, very similar builds of mage, so it doesn't really matter for Staz or Surrender which player makes it through, but for whoever wins out of Shaxy or Alutemu, I think they'll definitely be praying for Surrender to make it through on the Rogue. Because while I would argue that's not a great matchup for the Mage, definitely feels better than the Hunter.
If you watch day one of APAC playoffs and you were playing Mage in this tournament, you would be terrified because it didn't even look close, did it? In both matches, Staz was just like, play cards, 1-0. Play cards, 2-0. It's like game. It's like so crazy. It was so nuts. But yes, I do agree. I think Shaxy and Alutemu, regardless, will be hoping for a Surrender win. But let's go into it. Game number 1 of the final day of playoffs here in the Asia Pacific region. Staz on the top on his Hunter signature deck, and Surrender on the bottom on Rogue. And I would say Surrender much more, I feel, of a jack of all trades.
As a player, or in
terms of
the Rogue deck?
Deck playability.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Staz has shown what I think is a very, very valid style of play, especially in Specialist, where you learn one deck in particular. He's shown a bit of flexibility. Like I believe he switched over to Rogue a couple weeks ago and picked up a couple wins there. Yeah. But recently, it's very much been Hunter is the name of the game for him. And I think... you know, I don't think Staz would mind me saying he is not the favourite coming into Grandmasters compared to some of the other competitors.
Yeah, that's true.
And how much tournament pedigree they have. I think Staz has an uphill climb to be able to get to the same likelihood of winning. And I think sticking on one deck, learning it inside and out, and making sure you are the absolute dominant force with this deck is the best way to overcome that shortcoming.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I think it's kind of worked out well because that deck isn't one of the 3. It's number 4.
Yeah.
Because it means that no one is overly preparing for Hunter, or has been in GM history, right? No one's been like, I need to build a side deck that beats Hunter specifically. It's normally leaned more just anti-aggro in general. But looking at the game now, as a couple of turns have passed, nothing too mind-blowing going on. Surrender does have a good quality curve coming right up, whereas Staz, he's just already, and it's one thing I just love about Hunter right now is the decision points come thick and fast, don't they, as to what you want to do, because I'll be completely honest, I don't think Coin Animal Companion there was the worst play that could have happened, because there's Hyena and a one-drop follow-up the turn after, and so on, and it puts Surrender in a bad spot, potentially. I'm not saying it was the right play, but just my point being, Hunter can make choices from a very early turn at the moment.
Absolutely. So many different ways that Staz can play it, and we've seen... You laughing at Hunting Party to copy the rat.
Yeah. I think Surrender's face at Hunting Party to copy the rat, more importantly.
For Staz, though, I think he's shown fantastic flexibility in his game plan. Like, against the Mage, he's been aggressive almost to a fault, I would argue. Incredibly prioritizing just throwing anything onto the board. Against the Warriors, he's been greedy almost to a fault, I would argue, where he's playing super value-oriented. And against the Mage here, I think he's playing a little bit more removal-oriented. You know, he didn't want to coin out Animal Companion because that opens him up to Backstab Miscreant, Backstab SI, things like that, which could go very, very wrong. And so I like his slightly slower line of play, where it forces Surrender to, on average, play off curve.
And look at these discovers now. Solarium just strikes me as a bootleg Myra's to a certain extent. Took nearly 12 months, but I got to call a fairly relevant bootleg card.
Yeah, I think it's more boot than leg.
I think it's good.
I mean, compared to Myra's, it's different, right? It's very different.
I'm not saying it's as good as Myra's.
It's probably...
I'm saying if that was a rogue card, I think it would be played.
Yes, I think Solarium is just a very, very good card. I agree. And I think it's probably better than Myra's in this instance, right? You don't really have the mana to throw that down, especially when you're going to be playing every time Hunting Party on 5 to copy that ram.
But I think the good thing about Solarium in this deck right now is even late game, the card is fantastic. Maybe even better than early game, because Rogue can play all of its cards that it will draw. If you play on, turn 7 upwards, you can play Solarium and almost certainly play everything out. So
I agree.
You don't really get any major loss for it. It's pretty sick.
And I think, when you compare it to, I think, what was the only other real choice of Heroic Strike. Heroic Strike, obviously, your first impression is that it opens up aggressive lines of play where you just push for lethal as quick as possible, which is definitely something to consider against Staz, who only has one Scale Hide in his primary deck. But I would argue that Solarium actually opens up more aggressive options just because it gets you through to Leroy, Shadow Step, Eviscerate, SI, Waggle Pick, all those good, tasty cards later in the deck.
And that's one of the weaknesses Hunter has in this matchup, is when Rogue says go, it just has to say, okay, let's race. And Rogue's often in like a Formula 1 car, whereas Hunter's in like a Mini or something, and it doesn't really work out because Hunter, even disregard its history, does not have a lot of damage from hand when compared to Rogue.
That's fair.
Which is absurd. Right? If Rogue says go, you're probably going to die in a turn.
Well, did you catch the game last night between Orange and Calento?
I did not. That was about the time I fell asleep, actually, unfortunately.
Well, if you'd watched it, I assure you, you would not have fallen asleep. Calento was at 30 health, turn 6, with a 1 durability Waggle Pick. Orange just slams Leroy's, attacks face, swings, he got the lethal.
I did, because he Shadow Stepped it later
yes,
as well, didn't he?
It was insane.
I was falling asleep, clearly, so I did watch that match, yeah.
It was, that made me so happy. That was such a deserved win from Orange.
Yeah, just deal 6, go.
Yeah, exactly. Just, he knew the only way he won the game, and he went for it. But in this particular game for Surrender, I think, at the moment, I prefer the more board control-oriented route. Because there is the quote-unquote punish, as it currently stands, of double Timberwolf Unleash the Hounds to clear off this board. But to be perfectly honest, if Surrender sees that, I think he's pretty happy. He can just carry on developing. He has refill with the Solarium. It's really not that bad.
Well, when you take it on a basic level, right, if you put a wave of threats first, and your opponent answers it with all of their mana, and not really developing threats themselves, you can, on average, a deck can present threats more often than an opponent can deal with them.
Generally,
so you will win that fight eventually. Yes. And Surrender's not been just going all in aggressive, like you said. These cards have done things, like generated cards, put on a little bit more damage and created good bodies on the board. So Surrender's kind of playing out his game plan with a double impact of Staz not being able to do much up until now.
And the pressure from Surrender is making Staz feel forced into going for this play, which, I mean, I thought he was leading up to the Hyena there and would stop him from going for the Revenge the Wild. But to be honest, no matter what combination of cards he went for there, it felt
bad,
pretty miserable, yeah. So then the question is, would you rather have Coin and a Timberwolf in? Would you rather have Timberwolf in hand or Coin and Revenge of the Wild? Because this difference, the difference in this situation is he could have had Timberwolf instead of a dog, and he could have had Coin and Revenge of the Wild in hand. And I think from Staz, the Coin might have just been more valuable. Like, just being able to go Zul'jin a turn earlier. I don't know. I don't see... Like, I appreciate that after you've used Unleash the Hounds, Revenge of the Wild becomes very poor on average. It's not a very good card at that point.
Right.
But Timberwolf is not that important either. Like, he can get Springport off of the Master's Call, but if he gets that, the Unleash there, the Revenge of the Wild becomes good again anyway.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think
it is.
I think with Master's Call, his hand looks pretty good right now. And also, even if he goes Unleash the Beast, Master's Call stuff, that gets him to Zul'jin very naturally anyway.
It does, but it still leads into a turn 9 Zul'jin, which I think could have been Staz's best chance at taking this back.
Let's see how it plays out then. Surrender just playing the plain Ziliax, which is a really good play because it means Unleash the Beast does nothing.
That's true.
It's actually pretty sick.
that's a very smart play there from Surrender.
Knowing that there's been no Master's Call played this game,
Yeah.
and seeing the Unleash with the Revenge, it's fairly unlikely there's not Spring Paws and stuff readily available. You've seen a Timberwolf use, so the buff on a 1-1 to kill the Ziliax in one swing after the Divine Shield isn't there. I think this Ziliax is actually one of the most well-timed Ziliax that you didn't need
Very
to play
well-timed.
to attack a minion I've ever seen.
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny because the Unleash the Beast that Staz has is actually not from his deck, it's from the Shimmerfly. But Surrender still, you still expect to see it on curves. They're still very correctly playing around that and forcing Staz to go for this, which is horrendous.
Oof. There's Timberwolf number 2. Long gone now. Hunting Party on that Life Drinker. And the Blink Fox. Wow, Hunting Party's just good. Beast Rogue, let's go.
It's not the play here, but it's actually not that bad. Like, getting yourself another Life Drinker. Getting another Shimmerfly.
Surrender qualified to the finals with his Hunting Party Rogue. One of the new styles we've seen coming out from him.
I agree this is better. You want to pressure before Zul'jin can come down. But, oh man, I could have kissed Surrender if he'd gone for the Hunting Party there.
Okay, so I think now might have to see the Master's Call from Staz, because I think he needs to piece together a few things to make this turn work next turn.
But it just doesn't even get that good, right? Because if he can't hit Timberwolf, which makes the Spring Paws much better...
I'm just worried, does he always just get worse?
Yeah, the Scale Hide on its own is just not that good. I think Unleash the Beasts, making sure they're in the pool for Zul'jin is more important. And it's better than anything that could come down with Master's Call on this turn, I think. Surrender's got a hand that's definitely not slowing down in stuff to do with now Miscreant and even a potential Shadow Step as well. But I think he needs to look at this hand and figure out how can I kill my opponent as quickly as humanly possible with this.
Yeah, I really like Waggle Pick into
Yes.
Miscreant. Yeah, this is just not only the most just straightforward, powerful play, it opens up a lot of chances to be able to do this, which kills off the 5-2. You get to push 7 damage this turn. You could push 9 if you really wanted to. I don't know if that 5-2 is a big enough deal, but trading it is just a reasonably safe thing to do to dodge stuff like Dire Frenzy, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this makes sense. Like he's obviously protecting the Miscreant instead of pushing 1. Which I think is actually not so obvious. Like, the Miscreant likely survives because, obviously, if the second Unleash the Beast is played, it will take off the highest amount of attack. That was interesting, I think. I wouldn't have hated to see the extra 1 being pushed there.
I wouldn't have been overly upset at just pushing everything. And not even trade.
Well, I mean, I guess he missed 2 there.
Leave a 5-2 on the board and just say, well, it is literally just a 5-2.
Yeah.
It's not like Staz is going to make a push for lethal from 30 health on Surrender's side, right? And now, though, here comes the Solarium.
Let's look at the options. What's he got?
Oh, no.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, he can hit face, swing, play Shark, play Miscreant again.
Wow, yeah.
Like,
that
just
sounds
stuff.
reasonable
He has Vendetta
to me.
to kill off the Scale Hide.
Yes, killing the Scale Hide is very important. Just to even just play around top deck Dire Frenzy. Like, I think it's worth it. He's in such a good spot.
Can even Shadow Step the Shark for next turn.
I think we'll see what lackeys he gets. Like, if he gets
yeah, definitely respect
Kobold Lackey, yeah, you definitely want to get that going as soon as
not
possible.
playing Shark.
I think it was just hand space issues, but he could have played Vendetta and then Shark, right? Oh, he'd rather get the Togwaggle. Okay, fair enough. Alternate line of play.
Vendetta coming down. Wondrous Wand is available. Oh, that's a good turn, isn't it?
This is a very good turn. Okay, this is fine. Like, I honestly wouldn't have hated Spirit of the Shark because I think he had 4 chances to hit Kobold Lackey, and Kobold Lackey pretty much locked out the game in his favor.
Yeah, he already had Ethereal Lackey for 2 spells, to then Shadow Step Ethereal Lackey for another 2 spells.
This, however, gives him a very good chance to find Leroy. which I think is a very respectable line of play as well.
I think Surrender would have had to do some very silly things to have a bad turn. I think honestly, I think it would have been like Hunting Party, play 2 Shimmerflies, pass. would have been the turn that would have been actually a problem.
Yeah.
And this is the problem where we talked earlier. The game plan.
Just game.
The game plan versus Mage. Aggro, aggro, aggro.
Yes.
Game plan versus Warrior for Staz. Super slow. Win it in the long game. Game plan versus Rogue? Question mark. Because it's just not clear, is it? What do you? I don't really know what you're supposed to do consistently.
Yep.
That beats Rogue. That when the Rogue is being consistent too.
And I think Staz will be thinking the same thing for himself in this game. I mean, you know, the answer that we've seen consistently from Hunter players who have beaten Rogue really is Rat Trap. You know, to be honest, the way that they lock out the games in their favor, or at least give them a significant advantage, is just slamming the Rat Trap as soon as they humanly can. Which is looking like a decent plan for Staz, because obviously he can now switch over to his secondary or tertiary deck to counteract the Rogue game plan, and adding in an extra Rat Trap will definitely help.
It really will. We've seen Staz keep Rat Trap in almost every matchup, to be like almost every single one regardless, and then he's also, as you said, got secondary deck that has an extra Rat Trap in. We've seen him keep it and play it on 2 almost every single time, and we've seen it have a good impact. It has been part of those games where Staz has beaten Rogue as well as some other classes as well.
The thing is though, that game plan that we saw from Surrender there, when he was on the play rather than on the coin, it wasn't even that vulnerable for the vast majority of the game to Rat Trap. He was just curving out, you know, Blink Fox, Hench Clan Burglar, just decent minions played on curve, which, you know, to be fair, often is quite weak to the Hunter game plan, because very early on, a lot of their minions and a lot of their spells can function purely as removal. Kill Command, just kill off a 3 health minion is fine. Marked Shot, Deadly Shot, even the Spring Paws can all be very, very strong early on. And it was a bit of a rough draw for Staz. The combos didn't quite come together until a bit later on. But as we said, Rat Trap will help smooth that over usually.
Yeah, it's really... I'm still not 100% sold on Rat Trap, right? And that's weird for me because I think Rat Trap is one of the best Hunter secrets.
Yes.
But I think the way it's being played, and maybe the assumption it's just going to lock your opponent out, is a little bit strong, because I feel like for Rogue specifically, when Rogue can do lots of stuff in a turn, it often does enough stuff to not care about the 6/6. Unless you're literally going, like, imagine you go for a quick, if you go for exactly a big Van Cleef turn early game, you're scared of a Deadly Shot and proccing a Rat Trap. If that happens, that's worst case, you probably lose. But if you just don't do that, and all the other turns, like making tons of lackeys and even playing them, like, a lot of time you can either deal with a 6/6, or you're so far ahead that the 6/6 has to trade anyway. So, I don't know, I think it's going to be pretty close, but I think Surrender will change to his double Rat Trap deck. He gains...
Staz.
Sorry, Staz, apologies. Two names begin with S, that's all I need to get confused. But there's a Snake Trap in there as well, which I think complements the Rat Trap way more, because 2 secrets that are not that straightforward to even proc. Like, the second you proc Rat Trap, it's because you played 3 cards and you've committed, that's it. And you have to attack a minion to proc the snake, but with 2 rats and 1 snake, we've seen players play around Rat Trap when it was Snake, and that's just lost them the game to a certain extent. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have, and I think it allows the players on the Rogue to go for a little bit more of a risky game plan. Like I believe it was Rivius when he was playing against one of the Hunters earlier on, where if he just ignored it and pretended it was Snake Trap, he might have had a better chance of winning the game. Not to say that you necessarily should do that, because you might think, okay, even if it's the Rat Trap, I can still win later on. But very often, if the Hunter's pulling ahead, you have to throw all caution to the wind, pray it's not the Rat Trap, and then just hope to get there.
Yep, let's take a look at Staz's list as he has moved on to his secondary deck, which is, without much surprise, extra tracking, extra hatchet, the second Rat Trap, and the Snake Trap we talked about. The secondary Vicious Scalehide also opens up a little bit more juice for being able to land a Dire Frenzy on that minion, which really messes up with Rogue, when Rogue often just goes, okay, you're on about 16, 17 health, I'm going to go face for 2 turns and win. Well, a buffed Scalehide just changes those numbers completely. And the losses are just Hyena, Rhino, and the Revenge of the Wild, which I think is completely acceptable losses versus Rogue.
I agree. I was somewhat surprised to see Hyena go out of the list at first glance, because you know, I would traditionally think in an unfavorable matchup, you want to just get some kind of a ridiculous start with Hyena that blows out the game and the Rogue doesn't have a chance. But I think when you play the matchup a little bit more, you experience vendettas, backstabs, SI7 agents, Kobold lackeys, you quickly realize it just doesn't stick. Well, it's so rare for it to get there.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for me is Rogue can just not have minions early game, so you can't make a big Hyena. That there's nothing to make it big with, so it gets stranded a little bit. And here we see, I would happily say Staz is 100% keeping that rat trap because he has done every single time I've seen him draw it in his mulligan.
I agree it's not quite so ridiculous when you are on the coin because your opponent is less likely to play 3 cards in a turn, and so it doesn't stay activated, but I still think it's just one of the most powerful cards you could find early on. The kill command being kept as well, it's something that I think is done not often enough in the Hunter because, we've been conditioned over years of playing Hunter to think kill command goes face, and that's the only place you ever want to point it. But against the vast majority of rogue minions being 3 health, it's just fine as a removal spell.
Yep. Once you get to that point of playing that much Hunter, you have to enter the Elite Hunting Lodge, where you sit and meditate and realize that sometimes if you kill command a minion, you get to go face more. That's the higher level of Hunter understanding that you have to hit. One day, Derek, I'll give you the membership card and you can get in there and try it out.
I don't even think I'm worthy. Hunter was my last golden class.
I was going to say, was that like yesterday or something you got golden Hunter?
It was depressingly recent. It was only a few months ago I actually got it.
Sick.
Well, it's because I don't know. I never really played that much Hunter, but I loved the
Death Realm?
No, the one the mid-range Masters called Hunter, but just before this rotation, when we still had Diamals, Crackling Razor Maws. That was a strong deck.
Crackling Razor Maw is one of the most single powerful Hunter cards we've ever seen, I think.
It's insane.
Imagine it in this deck as well now. Oh.
Yeah, it'd be pretty nuts.
You'd have a good 2-drop.
Imagine that.
Whoa!
Well, I mean, speaking of good 2-drops.
You know that we were talking about cards the other day, the new announced cards and stuff? Something Explorer, sorry about the name, but the 2-mana 2/3 draw a card if you've got a quest active.
Oh yeah.
I might play me some
juicy.
quests because
yeah.
if you play a quest 1-drop, which you're always guaranteed to have, then you get to play a 2-mana 2/3 draw a card.
That card's nuts.
Do you remember when Novice Engineer got nerfed when it was a 2-mana 1/2 draw a card?
Well, I mean, do you remember Arcanologist? Arcanologist was insane. It was absolutely insane.
I was just looking at it today and going, I'm going to play me some quest decks, regardless of what the quest is.
I guess that's true, actually, because the criticism of quests is you're down a card in your starting hand, so let's just get that back. Psych.
So the Rat Trap has been played, and already Surrender has to consider it, but again, I think the more I see this Rat Trap with Snake Trap in the deck, the more I think, well, you should just maybe make some good turns.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is for Surrender, he has no way to activate either as
he's not going to do it anytime soon.
So yes, he just carries on doing his best game plan. What that is somewhat debatable, because obviously on this turn, I imagine he's deciding between Blink Fox and Snippety Snappity. Both have upside later on, right? Like Snip Snap has the echo effect. You could maybe get it for double play on turn 6 later on. Blink Fox has more synergy later on with Spirit of the Shock. But I think, given that they both have slightly better outcomes that are unlikely to come to fruition, I prefer the better body as it currently stands, which is the stickier one because it plays around the removal, which is Snip Snap.
I like it. Huff Huff. Face attack.
Even in the Elite Hunter Lodge, you still send Huffer face.
We were only talking about kill commands earlier, Derek. You're not ready to even discuss the intricacies of Huffer play. Yeah, that's the tier above.
The galaxy brain stuff.
That's black belt Hunter Lodge level. You're a long way off if you only got 500 wins the other week.
To face your opponent, you must first face yourself.
And then the Huffer comes out of nowhere and smacks you in the face. It's
Ow!
Like, oh,
that's not what I expected at all.
Oh, you meant literally send damage to your own face.
Where did you even find that pig?
It just flies from behind the curtain. A Huffer with wings. Now that is a scary thought.
Guaranteed that would be a card at some point.
You know bees?
Yes.
I would love it if
pigs.
Huffers. It's so summons like 4 Huffers, and they don't trade. They all just go face. Best card.
I mean, that would have to cost like 20 mana.
Hearthstone design team. Look, guys, I know you're listening.
Staz,
Sign me
however,
up.
is clearly not a member of the Elite Hunter Lodge, trading in with his Huffer there just because I think he's coming to the correct conclusion that his hand is very clearly a board control one as it currently stands. This is not a hand that can win by shipping everything face. Would you still like to see it
It's
go
just called
face?
a lack of confidence, Derek. I'm joking. The trade, in all seriousness, the trade's fine because it's unlikely that this 1 damage is going to come from anywhere.
Yep.
There's a lackey, 1 lackey out of the generated ones that can really do it cleanly. And if Surrender daggers it down, fantastic.
Exactly. Any mana expenditure at all is fantastic because it disrupts the 4 mana play, which is Wagglepick, Burglar, Spirit of the Shark.
Oh, I love Haunted Visions.
It's got to be Haunting Visions.
I just love the card
Haunting
in general
Visions is so
anyway.
good. Yeah. Haunting Visions is such a cool card.
I really like it. It continues to blow my mind that Shaman is just not getting there at the moment because Haunting Visions is great. Spirit of the Frog, great
Insane,
card.
yeah.
Cragwar, one of my favorite cards at the moment. I just know not many people are playing it. It's so weird.
I'm top 200 with Shaman at the moment, dude. Well, top 300.
Weird flex, but okay.
Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, I tried that last night, you know, after you told me yesterday. Oh, you breeze to legend, aggro shaman.
Yeah.
First match, control warrior. I was like,
Control Warrior. Free win. Free win.
free win.
Free win.
Shut up.
Let me introduce you to my good friend Underbelly Angler. And keeping Doomhammer in the mulligan.
I swung a full Doomhammer with Rockbiters, and he still got there.
Yeah, it's the worst matchup.
Look, you're joking. The viewers might not think you're joking. Go, wow, Raven can't even beat Control Warrior with aggro shaman.
What should I think now?
Okay. Raiding Party.
Yeah, these are some
Not-
pretty miserable options.
Well, yeah, I guess. I'm just thinking, like, Raiding Party,
it draws
a
two
weapon.
cards. Yeah, it draws
Right.
the second Burglar
Yeah.
and the Wagglepick.
I think it's not too bad. It could be better.
Deadly Poison has to be better though, right?
What then, a Wagglepick?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but you have to spend 4 mana to draw it, right? Like, it's not, the card isn't Wagglepick, the card is Raiding Party.
Haunting Visions into Raiding Party.
Wow. He got the bad one. You pretty much never want to destroy him and you add a copy of it to your hand.
Unless it's Huff.
That's when you realize in the Elite Hunter Lodge there have been rogues hanging from the rafters all along, ready to steal your Huffers.
No, the true teaching is when you're a true Hunter Master, no matter what class you play, you can still get Huffer.
I mean, this elite Hunter Lodge sounds more and more like a complete scam where someone's just making it up as they go along.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This isn't a pyramid scheme.
Surrender here, picking up the Edwin Van Cleef with a with a sap as well. He can go Vendetta. I don't know, backstab something.
Summit.
And then Edwin, then sap. Oh, Haunting Visions. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
What? It
Haunting
reduces the
Visions.
mana. Oh, that's perfect. That's insane. It reduces the mana of his sap. He'll still have to backstab something first if he doesn't want to. If he wants to get an extra +4/+4 buff on his Edwin.
Surrender now, doing the key skill of all high-end Hearthstone players. Mental maths whilst looking up to the sky. It's often the way you count better.
I can attest, it's true.
And also, bear in mind, this is not just 3 mana reduce the cost of your next spell by 3. He gets to discover
gets
a
it- yes,
card, which
exactly.
means that can open up just better options going forward anyway.
Yeah.
You could just go Blink Fox and go wide.
Yeah. So
You could even just
backstabbing something
ignore the
first.
discovered card if the card's that good at high cost. Well,
Well, I mean, I think I'd like to see the the sapping
yeah,
of the
yeah,
rat.
yeah.
Oh my god, this is insane! I like the holding of the preparation as well. I think that Edwin is plenty big enough as it currently stands.
Prep Raiding Party. The 2 nerfed cards make a comeback.
Oh, he can kill off the shark now. Without the Timberwolf being picked up for Staz, he had to just take a 50-50.
Oh.
That was such a huge draw there.
Surrender already knows. It's like, if one Timberwolves come down,
Yeah.
my shark is dead.
I mean, this was not an all-in game plan for Surrender. He wanted this to stick, though. This is a big blow to his game
Less
plan.
of an all-in plan and more for, well, if this swings, I'm in the finals.
Yes, exactly.
He just wins. Now, unfortunately, that Waggle pick is actually the worst draw in his deck.
He still has the second one, right?
He does. It's just that could have been a different
Something
card,
else.
and he
Fair
could have
enough.
drawn a
Yeah.
Waggle pick anyway. And he can
It's
still just
pretty
Waggle pick
bad.
and Blink Fox, which is reasonable. But now the problem Surrender's got is just these 1 health minions when Rogue doesn't play Fan of Knives.
Right, and so Waggle Pig isn't even that good. So maybe it's Prep, Party, Blink Fox,
Oh, wait.
Dagger.
What if he contracts the links and then rushes his links in? What? It's a play?
7 mana for a worse shooting star.
In Rogue, though. I think worse Fan of Knives would be better.
Oh.
Gladiator's longbow.
Yeah, he's just got a whole lot of weapon swings that he's got to chew through now. However, a lot of weapon swings mean a lot of damage, which could mean face, face, face. Something to consider. Okay, fair enough. Going for board control seems reasonable still. Staz is definitely going to be hesitant to throw down the Dire Frenzy on anything that is not exactly Vicious Scalehide, because, you know, if he's ahead in this situation, he does not want to lose to the potential burn plan. And also, as it currently stands, any of these cards shuffled in, even with the +3/+3 buff, are so much worse than Master's Call or Zul'jin. So much worse. And he just doesn't want to dilute his deck away from them.
Yeah, this turn really sticks out to me as Unleash the Beast and just play a 1-drop. Shimmerfly almost certainly.
Sounds good.
Because Unleash the Beast can trade, and Surrender has already shown that he has 0 answers to a wide board as he swung a pick,
Yeah.
a 1-1. Yeah, 2-1 technically at the time, but whatever. And this means like, well, okay, well, what does he do this turn? Because the board is worse and wider. He could do that. That helps.
Ooh, that is a tremendous amount of time being bought. So Ziliax take out the Wyvern, swing.
Can Contract
Face.
target your own minions? Probably not, right?
It can because I keep bringing up Orange. He made a sick play where earlier on where he contracted his own Kobold Lackey for lethal at one point in one of the games.
It's why I was like, 1 mana away from prep, contract the Ziliax at some point. You know, just getting the Divine Shield extra
Not the
swing.
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Definitely not the dumbest thing I've ever said.
Yes. Close, but not
not.
quite. Yeah.
Rat Trap number 2. Oh. Rat into Rat Trap.
Well, wouldn't it just then trap the rat?
Imagine if that's the way it worked. Imagine how bad the
Secret
game would be
interaction.
if there were these weird interactions. Well, but explained with logic. Well, if there's a rat trap and you play a rat, the rat goes for the trap. That just makes sense. Everyone's like,
It's just science, guys. Come on.
It was like, what? It's like the most convoluted card game ever, where there's just all these extra mini rules.
It's basically just like a Rube Goldberg machine. Like, there's no rules. It's just what they
It
think
just
to make
happens.
sense.
Yeah. Did you know it was called Doom Rat?
I did.
First time. Eric knows.
I could have just. That could be a lie for all you know.
I trust you though. I actually quite like
Your
Snipe. here.
first mistake.
Misplay. I would really like Snipe. Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's just good enough, and it's fantastic to have post Zul'jin as well.
Yeah, I think it's close. I think freezing trap on average is just too likely to be bad. Pretty interesting spot now with both players kind of flailing around pretty aimlessly. Both at pretty much full health. Not with all too much pressure they can throw down. I guess Surrender could just clear? So bad though.
He could prep it and then play his own rat.
Wait, no, he couldn't. It costs 6 mana.
Oh, he preps to 4. Oh god, I'm locked in the
3 mana.
the old mindset.
Do you know, I didn't even realise though, because randomly in my YouTube recommended videos popped up like...
Careful.
No.
It's PG.
No. Just one of the original like gameplay like adverts for Hearthstone being commentated on by Ben Brode, where he was just kind of taking through what is Hearthstone, how does the game work,
Yeah, this is the game.
Old prep was new prep. It used to be for 2 mana. I didn't even realise they
really?
buffed it up to 3. I mean, this was kind of like pre-closed beta or something. It was like alpha or something. Valera still had the old art, but I didn't even realise that.
I remember
prep used to be
original design when they had that. Was it the chicken that when you hovered over it, it dealt damage to you and stuff like that? It was like imagine casting it. It would be like casting like a sort of constant action game. It's like, oh, he slipped and the mouse is over the card. He takes 10 damage. It would be so nuts.
It would be. Surrender in the end in this game that is rapidly slowing down as opposed to speeding up.
Rapidly slowing down.
Rapidly slowing down, yeah. Contracts the rat. And now he has his own one.
I just want to see the signature on that contract. The rat's like, okay, well. It's just a scratch mark.
Miscreant's a good top deck. That's one of the cards that Surrender was looking for. He's obviously... He knows that this is not the secret that came off of the evil plan or secret plan. So he knows that it is 50% to be rat trap, 50% to be snake trap. He cannot test for either with... Well, he cannot test for the rat trap. The only way he can find out is by activating the rat trap.
Yeah.
Basically what I'm trying to say.
You can't test for the snake trap.
Exactly, yes. So he probably just continues to play around with the rat because that would be a pretty big tempo swing against him.
He's
got strong plays without it.
Doom Rat Miscreant just
That's
seems
what I'm looking at.
absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. Like, actually, just seems like a good turn.
It does seem like a decent turn. I guess he could consider Longbow Miscreant because a 6 mana 6/6 is just like pretty bad usually. But considering the fact that we're rapidly entering an arena game, I think a 6/6 Doom Rat is not that bad.
I also think, especially versus Hunter, it's good.
Yes.
How does it deal 6 damage?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 2 minions, one of them's rat. I'm okay with it.
This is pretty simple. I guess, yeah, just putting more damage on board actually makes more sense, right? Because he's still going to be limited in the amount of lackeys he can play each turn. So the Miscreant doesn't offer much benefit, and it's just a 1/4 as opposed to a 3/3.
He's also only a few turns away from just lethal if you just add up straight damage, right?
Yeah.
You know, if these minions get to swing once, that's 9. The weapon swinging twice is 10. Well, he's only on 22.
The thing is, though, Staz is just getting closer and closer to those crazy draws. I'm talking Vicious Scalehide, Master's Call, Zul'jin. I don't know, like well, I guess those are the main ones that he's looking for, but those are nuts. Like any one of those 3 draws just pulls him, I would argue, pretty far into the lead. But at the same time, if Surrender finds Heist Baron Togwaggle, he's in a fantastic position. So there's a bunch of great stuff he can get. Surrender needs stuff, and Staz needs very specific cards to pull himself into a good position here, and he's just made it more difficult for him to find them. Which is pretty surprising.
I'm also surprised that he's hovering this prep.
Is it just to activate the Miscreant?
I don't think it can be. I think if you're playing prep and you picked Raiding Party, you prep in Raiding Party, but if he does, he can't comfortably play another card.
Yes. Oh, he's going in. He's just, I think, praying that it's not the rat trap, or at least that he can deal with it.
Oh, now he can discover a spell.
Well, he can just kill it off with the Vendetta.
Oh, he has the
Kobold,
Kobold.
right?
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
He can clear the board.
This is a huge tempo swing in his favor. I mean, he doesn't even have to kill off the 4/1, right? We could just see take out the rat and then swing the Waggle Pick face. Yeah.
Then you can bounce Henge Clan next turn.
Yeah.
Or the Lackey, you know, whatever you fancy.
Yeah.
Head crack.
Ooh. Surrender and Head Crack. Name a more iconic duo.
Wait, what did he pick? Oh, the backstab move. Because he cast it so quick, I was like, wait, where's the spell in his hand? And it's like, oh, never mind. Surrender with the quick draw.
Okay.
Oh.
That's a great top deck for Staz.
Oh,
it's a fantastic top deck for Staz.
Okay, I think Surrender kind of got away with it.
The draws he
Yeah,
wants
he
to
got away
see,
with it.
though. Because, well, as it currently stands, by playing the Dire Frenzy the previous turn, not only did he make it less likely to find the good cards, it meant the Vicious Scalehide is no longer even that good because he cannot cast the Dire Frenzy on it. It's pretty much just Dire Frenzy, Master's Call and Zul'jin that he's looking for now.
And this is... So the game is basically, to sum it up for anyone that maybe just be joining this last couple of minutes, they played a lot of stuff, they stalemated, and now if Staz doesn't draw a power card, which right now is pretty much Master's Call or Zul'jin exactly, I think he just loses in the next couple of turns. If he does, the game continues. He doesn't even necessarily win. The game just continues because Surrender has a lot of good draws himself. He also has Henchclap Burglar. Yeah, he's okay. Surrender was like,
My
okay,
opponent just played a 1-mana 4/4 with charge. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's what I want to see. But Surrender has tons of value, and also bear in mind this longbow is damage to face.
Oh, yeah.
But also, it's 2 trades of a minion that cost him no health if he wants to swing it that way.
Right. Surrender now knows that this is a random secret. This is not Snake Trap guaranteed. Even though he's seen both Rat Traps, this came from the secret plan. So how does he most effectively play around it? It gets pretty awkward with Snipe because he wants to bounce, I would argue, either Life Drinker or Henchclan Burglar a lot more than Kobold Lackey. But he wants to play Kobold Lackey first to test for the Snipe.
I honestly believe that you just play Henchclan Burglar and be upset. Yeah. I think overly playing around exactly Snipe.
But then what if it's Snake? Do you not attack into the minion here and just go face? Are you then taking too much damage, so you have to go Life Drinker?
But so for me, a lot of the decision goes, you could play Burglar. If it's Snake, then you just swing face, bounce the Burglar, go again, then you have 2 spells. You can still Life Drinker, and so on, so on. Surrender kind of went halfway house, and I think this is the middle ground. I think Life Drinker's a little bit better to lose overall. Wait, but he didn't want to bounce it.
He didn't want to bounce it, yeah.
Huh?
It works out because it's not strictly worse, right? Because he's had 2 mana left over, which was either spell he discovers or dagger.
But the 2 mana left over in the replay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
but I'm
right.
saying, you know, getting another spell is not strictly better than playing the 1 spell he discovered or pressing hero power. I think it's probably slightly better.
Okay.
But well, it worked out for him, right? He got to cast the big bad
if you're
Ruby
gonna
straight away.
if you're gonna get a 2-drop spell, then yeah, right.
And in what has been a very long, slow, grindy game where both players have just been desperately searching for something to do, it looks like Surrender is going to pull into the lead, but Staz finds, apart from Zul'jin, the 1 card he needed to keep himself alive.
It's not enough.
So
Because
that
Big
gets
Bad
a
Voodoo gets a 5-drop.
Yes.
When it dies. The problem is he can Hound into the 4/3, which removes the most damage from the board, but it adds a 5-drop to the board. If the 5-drop does 4 damage,
Okay. So
he loses.
what if he goes double Scalehide, trade into the Lackey just to gain 2, the Miscreant, sorry, to gain 2 health. Hound then kills it off, I guess, or goes face. He goes up to 12. There's only 9 damage on board. He would still die.
It's the same situation, isn't it?
But it gets him a little bit extra health. And unless he goes for the dream scenario that it's the worst 5-drop possible.
I mean,
I don't even know what that could be.
Maybe you have to do that.
Yeah. Validated Doomsayer has gone, which wouldn't even be that bad, actually.
He's going to go for that.
Yeah.
Clear it up, surrenders. Giving these a bit of a wiggle here, a bit of a smile, as he knows that, to me, as far as I'm aware, the Kobold Lackey plus the Goblin Lackey equals a lot of damage. Never mind the Shadow Step, but it's there just for good measure. And that is going to be game with a 2-0 victory. Surrender is going to be your first player going into the finals of the playoffs here at the Asia Pacific Grandmasters, and Staz is out.
A fantastic game by Surrender on the Rogue. He's just been playing some lights out Rogue the entire time, I think, here in Grandmasters. It's not a very easy deck to play. Surrender himself admits it. The Rogue Mirror, I think he was very much struggling with playing it recently in particular. But I think he's had developed a great understanding of the matchup. All matchups with Rogue, and I would argue also he's just shown great improvement over the course of Grandmasters. He realized at first he was not playing up to his usual standard, so he knuckled down, put in the work, and got right back up there.
Yeah, and Surrender's a player who I think just year on year just continues to prove that he's just fantastic.
Yep.
And I think he just continues to get better at everything he pushes himself at. And I think, you know, regardless of who plays on the other side and gets to the finals, it's going to be pretty hype because now it's either Surrender, Shaxy, or Alutemu that are going to go through into the global finals spot. And either one of those three players have all been played extremely impressively throughout the Grandmasters season and continue to do so. So, you know, commiserations for Staz, of course. I think he was one of the most quickly improved players over Grandmasters.
So.
He had a very rocky start, was sitting near the bottom of his division for the first, like, third of Grandmasters, maybe even half-ish, but then moved on very, very quickly and just back-to-back won a million matches for Staz to get here. So pretty impressive for Staz. It's sad to see him go. I know he had a lot of fans as well, but Surrender getting his spot there in the finals is huge.
Yes, I fully agree. I think, you know, given that Staz, I believe after the first 4 weeks of Grandmasters was 2-6, and then improved to 8-6 afterwards. It's like it's unbelievable. Like that, it's very, very difficult to do. We've only seen that really from Hunter Race on the other side, who also went on an unbelievable win streak. He is still up for contention later on today in the European region. But for now, we're going to be finding out who the opponent for Surrender is going to be. It's guaranteed a mage out of Shaxy or Alutemu. And I think both of those players are going to be pretty happy with the result from our first game of the day.
Yeah, the mages have managed to dodge the Hunter, which is the big story for at least those two. But you are right, Derek. It is Shaxy versus Alutemu coming right up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.
Hi, I'm Yunil Javinas, aka Staz. I'm playing for Brand Esports. I still don't have a Twitter account yet, so just follow our Facebook page for updates. I'll be creating one when I get back. So I think the deck that made the huge impact in my career is the Miracle Rogue. It's one of the decks that I used when I started playing Hearthstone. And for the first year I played Hearthstone competitively, it was one of the decks that I used for like that full year that gave me the most wins during my early days in Hearthstone, yung mga early tournaments ng Hearthstone. For the Grandmasters, I think what I'm most looking forward to is to be recognized more by people as a professional Hearthstone player. I mean, I think compared to the other players, I'm the most underrated player in the scene. So it's my opportunity to prove myself worthy for this title, which is the Grandmaster.
My name is Jungsu Kim. I am Surrender. You can find me at Twitter with SurrenderHS. If there is a rival in my group, then it should be Tom, I think, since we played each other so many times and I always lost to him. It should be Tom. I really want to beat him. Ferrari. He's one of my favorite Korean player. He's like 6 years older than me, so he treats me like his little brother. But if we have to face each other, then I'm gonna beat him, of course. I think every single Hearthstone player can agree with that EU is the best, since they always have the highest cut for playoffs, and the world had top 3 European players for top 4, right? So EU is the best, and I think Asia is the second one. Yeah, we had higher cut for playoffs than America, so I think America is the worst. Then my favorite memory is, I think, is it's the Worlds in 2015. I was staying in 6th place at the time and helping Osaka for his preparation. And I was cheering with 6th for him. And when he was winning the Worlds, we kept drinking. We were super happy for him. Yeah, that's the most memorable memory.
Shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There should be scorching deserts, adventure, monster of narcissism. High stakes, big annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save the world.
We are back here with more Grandmasters playoffs. It's the final day here, and we are already on our way to working out who is going to get that global final spot. Derek and I are going to bring you the action. It's Shaxy versus Alutemu as match number 2, and it really is just, this is obviously the way it worked with the top 3 from each division making it to playoffs, and then we've, just whittled down that number, but it really is just an all-star lineup for Asia Pacific. I think Alutemu has probably been one of the most impressive and just best players across the whole of the GM season.
Yes.
Shaxy in Division B just dominated like it just wasn't even a problem or an issue. And then we've had Surrender, who's waiting for one of these players on the other side of the finals, is Surrender. So I think we couldn't really ask for much more in terms of Grandmasters here in the Asia Pacific region. But this one's going to be a Mage Mirror, Derek, and I'm sure maybe it's nightmares, maybe they were good dreams. But you remember the match we cast of Mage versus Mage, was it yesterday? Oh no, Friday.
Friday, yes.
Because that matchup got really weird.
It did, as Mage often does, in no small part, I would argue, to Luna's Pocket Galaxy. The recent buff of that card from 7 mana down to 5 mana in an unprecedented event, with Blizzard introducing the first buffs since the closed beta to Hearthstone. It's really shaken up the way that this Mage deck has been played. I think some players have liked it, some players have not, in terms of the way it's changed the playstyle of Mage, because it it often means that while I think the most important thing you can do is minion pressure early on, I think that big giant plays, big Sorcerer's Apprentice plays still trump often the Luna's Pocket Galaxy plays. If you go for Luna's Pocket Galaxy into a big Luna turn, that can just do so much ridiculous stuff that it's nigh on impossible to come back.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing, right? Because I get the understanding of the thought process now that, oh, Luna's Pocket Galaxy busted, broken, so on, so on. Even though straight after the buff, no one thought it was busted, or not many people at least. I think the general idea was, oh, it's better, but it's still Pocket Galaxy, it's not good enough.
Everyone was freaking about Crystology.
Right, exactly. And now there were like 2 questions to me. One, does it need to be nerfed to 6 mana? And 2, would that make much difference? Because the idea of a trade-off of, half of a total mana you're even allowed in the game, that does nothing most of the time on the turn you play it, if you imagine most cards to be played on their curve, so to speak. It's like 5 mana do nothing, which is the joke, but then that is just an investment of mana into more powerful turns in the future. Like, is that actually just a fair thing overall? Is it something that negates it enough? And is the power of Pocket Galaxy more a subject of giants existing in the game?
And I think that's, with Mage being so powerful at the moment, there are calls being thrown all over as to what cards should be nerfed. Obviously Conjurer's Calling is a pretty prime target of people saying it's too powerful at the moment. The fact that you can so consistently, with the Twin Spell as well, so often go for these huge powerful board swing turns, it's a little bit too strong. I personally am in agreement with APX Void when he talks about what cards he thinks are a little bit too strong in Mage. APX Void, probably the most well-known Mage player, full stop, in Hearthstone, for those of you who are unaware. He thinks Mountain Giant is the card that should be nerfed, as it currently stands.
And you can see it,
exactly.
right? Like, you can understand why.
Is only too strong when coupled with Mountain Giant. And I think, I could agree with him. Conjurer's Calling is a cool card. It's a fun card, and it's one I want to see stay in Hearthstone. I think it's just when you see some of those Khadgar Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling turns that you start to realize, it's a bit much as it currently stands.
Funnily enough, as we get into semi-final number 2, Shaxy versus Alutemu, Mage on Mage, you've got to ask yourself, will the new expansion just contain a really badly statted mana drop that contends with Mountain Giant?
That's what everyone's been calling for. Everyone has said make a 12 mana 1/1. I think.
Okay, I think a 1/1's a bit extreme.
Well, I think it's such a double-edged sword, right? Because if you put in like a bad one, even if it's just a 6/6 or whatever, like I don't think that really fixes the problem. Because obviously it makes it less likely that you get the taunt on Grave Horror, but it kind of makes it more high-rolly, right? Because then if your opponent does get it, like it feels terrible for you.
I guess like the hope is that Mountain Giant is a kind of cool card. I think everyone likes overall Mountain Giant as a card itself.
I agree.
As we dive out a little bit for a second. But the question for me is, if the numbers, if you can whiff on a Mountain Giant, does that style just go away then?
Right.
Because does it make it, if you whiff, you just lose more often? And does that just make it not as good? And I think that's the overall idea. But while we're discussing Mountain Giants, something happened. I'm not quite sure. I was looking at Derek, if I'm completely honest. But we will work out what's going on and get it fixed very, very quickly. But I think as well, we've not really talked about the two players' decks because they're so similar. But I did hear Sol talk a lot about how much he loves Frostbolt in yesterday's broadcast, depending on where you are. Today's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Frostbolt? Like in this list, at least at a glance, it's Frostbolt versus Sandbinder.
Yes,
right?
I love Frostbolt. I think it's a fantastic card to include in Mage at the moment. When I was talking to Hunter Ace last night, I believe the message he sent me was, imagine not running double Frostbolt primary, as he has done. He cut a magic trick for a Frostbolt in his deck, which I've got to be honest, I did not even consider as something you could consider. It just seems like such a core card in the deck.
Wait, what's the unconsiderable? How would you say that? Consider the...
Unconsiderate.
Does that make...
That does not make sense.
There isn't a word. We'll have to make one up at some point.
Unconscionable.
Sure. For me, one of the better cuts I've liked is Banana Buffoon. Oh, maybe
really?
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Yeah. But like Banana Buffoon, I've liked as a cut that I've seen before.
I don't. I know that it's...
You're a fan of Potassium.
I am a big fan of Potassium. I think that this deck is, one of the best things you can do is just curving out Sorcerer's Apprentice into Banana Buffoon. And obviously, that's a very specific series of cards that, if the Sorcerer's Apprentice is answered, it falls pretty quickly by the wayside. But I just think having something proactive to do on turn 3 is very, very important. Like pinging on turn 3 in this deck, I think it's so bad. Like compared to playing Arcane Intellect or Banana Buffoon is dreadful. So I like having at least 4 options on turn 3. Be it Snip Snap could be one of them. Obviously 2 Arcane Intellects is core. 1 or 2 Banana Buffoons as well, and Loon.
Okay, well, while we were just discussing our personal thoughts, there was the Sorcerer's Apprentice War that happened.
Yeah.
And Alutemu's won in the end because of the Ray of Frost being able to take it down. But you see the respect given to these kind of early players where without a Frostbolt, you commit 2 Ray of Frosts. Or Alutemu did. You didn't, Derek. But Alutemu committed 2 Ray of Frosts to kill the opponent's Sorcerer's Apprentice because that's what you kind of have to do. Because if you don't, you could lose the game off the back of it. And Alutemu's about to make Derek's favourite Hearthstone play ever. Or kind of off curve, but still.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have 5 other 1-cost spells plus Evocation Cyclone.
Okay, sorry.
So it's not quite my favourite play. But yes, I think this is bang on what you're supposed to do here for Alutemu. The option to use cash in the Arcane Intellect there, I think, is not correct. Because I think for Alutemu, whether he goes for that or not, Shaxy is clearly in the lead when it comes to Mountain Giant. He will very, very likely be playing the first Mountain Giant in this game. So I think for Alutemu, the best way to counteract that is to make an Apprentice that is 1, very difficult to deal with, and 2, super threatening. Look at the attack value on this.
Yeah, and also,
Arcane Intellect into Banana Buffoon next turn. That's insane.
because Shaxy hasn't done it yet, he clearly does not have an answer to 2 Health Sorcerer's
Right.
Apprentice, because not only this turn, but last turn, he didn't kill it. So he doesn't. If he could, he would. That's. I don't think, as we just said, you can even afford to leave an apprentice up for 1 turn unless you're doing what exactly like giant conjurers
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something to that power level. So I really like it from Alutemu. As you said, putting a lot of pressure on, and now it's all on Shaxy. The problem is, he could go for his own giant, but that doesn't accomplish much, and he's dead to a ping unless he coins a banana. Maybe he just has to play. Oh, is he going for the cheaper into?
Evocation Giant Banana. It's pretty creative. There's a lot of ways this goes wrong.
So my question to you now is: evocation better to use there than a coin?
Yes. I would much rather have the coin in hand.
Okay. It's just a weird one with Cyclone, right? Because they're both spells.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's
He
only
doesn't have a Cyclone.
there's only 3 cards in the deck that it's better than, whereas coin, I think, on average, is much more likely to be better.
Ooh, Conjurers.
But I see your point.
Yeah, Conjurers there for Alutemu now. Which means he does have giant Conjurers in hand, ready to go.
And there's some merit to that. Like, you know, we could see attack face with everything and then Conjurers calling the monkey, freeze the giant. Like, he could just leave this giant in play if he wanted to, but in the end,
It's just respect,
he's
isn't
too
it?
afraid
Just respect.
of calling. And I think this is correct. You know, leaving it up there would definitely be letting cast division get to me, where I can see there's no Conjurers calling. But the benefit of clearing that off is going to become rapidly apparent.
Second giant for Shaxy, but look at that. Alutemu must just be loving this game so far.
Yeah, look at it. Khadgar Conjurers.
He dealt with a giant, and Shaxy clearly didn't have much to follow up with, which has given Alutemu, I won't say a free turn, because it's not like Shaxy just ping past, but almost a free turn.
Pretty much. Love it.
There we go. And this is just a lot of minions. Shaxy does have Sea Giant and Frost Nova, though.
Wait a second. I didn't think the Battle Cry on Doubling Imp would go off there.
Whoa! Nice Sea Giant, friend.
Those Kaboom bots are actually nuts. Death Rattle deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. That's insane. What? Wow.
Wait, maybe these should be the tech cards for the mirror.
Kaboom Bot is an underrated card. In one of the less stupid things Lorinda has said, he was putting this into... I can't remember what it was. Was it Hunter as like a budget Spider Bomb or into Warrior? I think he was putting them into Warrior. And it actually seemed pretty good. I do not think that the Kaboom Bots are that bad.
Yeah, they're alright, aren't they? It's always a decent card that you discover in Warrior, I think, even though it started badly. Especially when you add Rush into it,
Whoa.
it's just... That's just 6 damage to something most of the time.
3 mana
which is
Fireball.
insane. But now it does get a little bit weird. All the decision points
So many
are on
decision points
Shaxy's
here.
end now. Initially, I was just thinking with this turn, oh, Mirror Image Sea Giant.
Yeah,
you know,
like it could
Nova.
Be, yeah, right. It could be Mirror Image Sea Giant Coin Frost Nova, or Mirror Image Sea Giant Coin Sea Giant is also something to consider. Because like this board for Alutemu, while the death rattles on Boombots are pretty nice, it's not that bad.
Oh, I didn't even see this.
Okay, this accomplishes a similar thing. This is probably better, right? Because you are more likely to have more minions on board for a cheaper Sea Giant going forward than you are to have more cards in hand.
Yeah, I like getting the Mountain Giant out of the way.
Oh man, these Boombots are nuts, right? Like you can go double trade with the Khadgar or the Doubling Imps, and then the Boombots are the Kaboom bots are really nearly good.
Well,
they just need a little bit of help.
Kind of. You could just Nova Snap Freeze 1 Giant.
That's something to consider, right? But then he's not going for Luna, and I think Luna is something that Alutemu would like to go for this turn, if possible. Wait, no, he can't quite guarantee to clear off a giant without the help of Frost Nova Conjurer's Calling. Sorry, Frost Nova Snap Freeze.
What about if he just... I like killing the Mountain Giant and pushing the rest face.
Oh, no. I really like killing it off. I really like killing it off.
Yeah, oh, sorry, okay. I guess in my world I was thinking you keep holding the Nova. Which changed a few things,
yes,
but yeah, never mind. If you're using the Nova, you can't afford to leave it up because you might just die next turn.
I agree. If you had to kill one of them, you'd kill the Mountain Giant to stop the defensive capabilities. But overall, I think this was definitely the way to go. And for Alutemu, you know, his game plan has been very, very clear. It was, if my opponent doesn't play big Giants, I obviously apply as much pressure and go face. As soon as they do play Giants, I try to kill them off as aggressively as possible. Because the thing you have to remember about Mage that I always seem to forget is, even though it feels like they have limitless value and pressure options, that's only the case when they stick a Giant. If they are unable to stick a Giant, their options are actually extremely limited, because Shaxy has drawn all 4 Giants. He's still unable to make anything impressive happen.
It's when you have to start getting creative, when you don't have the Giant powers. Now Shaxy, though, just... Does he have to just play Sea Giant?
It just dies.
Is that fine?
No.
Why?
Because it just dies and then you have nothing. Like,
but in a couple of turns you have Antonidas Nova.
Yeah. And I guess the game plan for Shaxy as it currently stands is like draw Khadgar, so he could go like Khadgar or draw Luna, or draw Luna's Pocket Galaxy into Luna. Or just Antonidas, right? Antonidas Frost Nova and hope it sticks.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's just a... Because you could also say go Antonidas Nova, 1 Fireball, spell, and then just Conjur's Core and the Antonidas afterwards, maybe. Yes. Sometimes you have to do stuff like that.
Shaxy putting the blinkers on there and saying, please don't let this be Mirror Entity. However, I'm sure he quickly realized, as I did after he played it, he can still kill it off anyway. So no matter what happens, even in the worst case scenario, I suppose, of Mirror Entity, still has a Giant in play. Shaxy does not. And Shaxy knows that there's a Conjurer's Calling in hand, and there's a Khadgar on board. And Alutemu is looking to be in a great spot. Yep, nod of the head, I think. Wow.
Oh.
Wow. I think Alutemu knows he's in a great spot. Because obviously the downside of this is, okay, if he goes Conjurer's Calling Luna's Pocket Galaxy, that means he can't ping the Sea Giant, which means there could be a value trade on the Grave Horror.
What Grave Horror?
Oh, yeah, okay. Ha! Excellent point.
You play around it by not summoning one.
And he could have sacrificed in the Khadgar anyway, I suppose, if he wanted to play the Luna's Pocket Galaxy.
I also think my point is, like...
Luna's has to be better here.
Yeah.
It has to be. Yeah.
My point with the ping is, with that play, do you care if it value trades that much?
I think it's the way that it goes wrong. Like, if you get value traded and then you're hit with Khadgar, Conjurer's Calling, Frost Nova, I think that's the way you can lose.
I guess. I just consider the follow-up turn.
I agree it's unlikely that you're losing, but, you know, Alutemu needs to look at the how do I possibly lose situations, because now that he has got a full board of Giants, and he's played Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and he has Stargazer Luna in hand, it is going to be difficult for Alutemu to lose.
He's Nova this turn.
Okay.
He can develop this or save it, the Apprentice. And then next turn he has Antonidas spells, one of which is Magic Trick. He gains another draw next turn as well, just naturally.
Alutemu has board locked himself, which is, I guess, Shaxy's one saving grace. You know, Alutemu did this on purpose because it means freeze does not allow the Giant to connect face, which is a pretty big deal. And I would argue more important than not board locking yourself. Shaxy can put on a reasonably powerful turn here. And like you said, he sets up for the Antonidas as well. I like the not attack, because you want to keep your opponent board locked.
Is Alutemu going to lose?
No. So, next turn, attack, triple trade. Like, Alutemu still has Luna's Stargazer Luna with a Luna's Pocket Galaxy in play. So unless he dies next turn, which doesn't quite.
It's close.
It's close.
Because he can play Antonidas Banana Fireball.
He can't play the Icicle on the same turn, and the Icicle is pretty crucial to take out the...
He misses 8 damage by having to clear the 0.
Yes.
It's the second 0.
So it's not worth it overall.
Unless he draws a spell. He could draw a Ray of Frost.
Well, he could just draw a freeze, more likely, right? If he goes Archmage Antonidas...
Well, but then he can't Fireball.
Well, but he sets up lethal next turn. Like, he freezes the board, pushes 16 or 24 damage face, whatever.
Wait, how does he freeze the board again?
If he draws a freeze. That's
oh,
what
right. I'm just saying, yeah, but if he draws
a
a Ray of Frost, he just wins.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Because he can Ray of Frost.
I meant Frost Nova.
Okay, you can Ray of Frost as one of the 0-2s, trade the 3-2 in the other one, and Antonidas Banana, go.
So
Fireball.
Ray of Frost is just lethal then?
Yeah. as is Magic Trick plus Frostball. Oh no, any 1 cost.
Oh,
that's not it.
Ziliax, there's no mechs on board because unfortunately... Oh wait, he did roll Boom Reaver, but he re-rolled the Boom Reaver because it was lower attack. That's got a sting.
There might be a stinger.
I'm not saying it was wrong because it was only better in the case of exactly Ziliax's top deck. Or was it?
Is 1 damage worth more than Ziliax's potential? That's the baseline of the question.
Well, it gets more complicated than that because he could have still bananaed to get a value trade on a siege on a giant that survives at 2 health rather than 1.
It's true. It's a 7-9.
Exactly, which is kind of something to consider. And it does mean now he has a much less impressive Ziliax.
It does clear off the one of the minions, though, which does the job he wanted it to do. It's just way more mana than he wanted to spend.
Oh man, it's like 28 damage he could push on this turn. So close to lethal.
So he has to just trade. Just going for it.
He clearly does not have to trade.
Wait,
no, he did have to trade.
He's just dead, isn't he?
now.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
That was just wrong.
He had to trade at least 1,
He had
right?
to trade at least 1, yes.
Okay,
Wow. That was...
I'm confused,
on
Derek.
both sides there. Like, at the end, that very, very nearly went wrong on both sides, and it kind of did go wrong for Shaxy at the end.
Because he
just
let himself
gave away the game. Yeah, like, he did not know Alutemu's hand. Maybe Alutemu, despite having played the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, just had a handful of garbage. We can see he had the Dream in singularly Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Luna. The 1 card of Luna made Alutemu's turn insane on the following turn.
Wait, on the last turn?
On the last turn. If he hadn't died, if he hadn't won the game,
right, sorry. Right. I was going to say, on the last turn, he just let himself dead to pink.
Sorry. So
right,
if Shaxy had kept himself alive by trading,
yes.
he didn't know that Alutemu had the God Hand. So maybe he could have worked his way back into the game.
He had Antonidas, he could have drawn another Conjuring, or he could have drawn Nova or something.
Yep.
Even a Ray of Frost might have got him there because there would have been 1 less giant on the board, so then maybe he could have traded again and so on and so on. And he would have had a bit more health because Ping trade the giant into the Ziliax would have healed him up to 20, if I recall. I think he was on 16, which would have made it a little bit more difficult. So, yeah, after all that, it feels weird, doesn't it, to just
end on
not even give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
I think for Shaxy, it just feels strange after the so close he was there to nearly actually grabbing the game out of nowhere to just end the turn and be like, I'm dead on board.
Yeah, and I think this has kind of been the name of the game for Alutemu, where I would argue he has just been playing Mage the best in Asia Pacific, and it was pretty clearly evinced in that game, where he had clear domination right from the start of the game, where, you know, he knew he had to go for Apprentice double Ray of Frost despite it being off-curve, took another off-curve turn on the following turn with the Banana Buffoon as well, but I think it was very, very spot on to realize he had to seize board early on, because the way he overcomes the fact he's going first rather than on the coin and therefore susceptible to mounted giants is put enough stuff on the board so that he can kill the mounted giants. He did exactly that and put himself in a great spot.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a very, very strange end to the game.
Yes.
But I think the game was pretty close and pretty nutty, even though Alutemu looked like he was stomping throughout the whole thing. It just goes to show that in that mirror match, it's not over till it's over, because stupid things can happen quite often. Both players are playing their primary deck once again in game number 2. But yeah, Alutemu leading the way 1-0 now. No need for any of their other decks. They're built for other matchups, and I don't even really know what you tech into the mirror that makes that much of a difference.
I think Snap Freeze is usually the card that gets slotted in.
I never want to take anything out. That's my problem with this deck.
That is
I don't even know what I'd remove for Snap Freeze right now.
Yeah. I agree. It's a little bit easier against Warrior because you can take out like the Sea Giants, the Frost Novas, things like that. But against Mage, like the early stuff that you're throwing down with all the spells, the Banana Buffoon, Sorcerer's Apprentice, is often one of the most powerful things you can do. Hello there. But also the late game stuff is also really strong because you want to be able to have Sea Giants to contest a large board. You obviously need Mountain Giants as well. I think it can be close.
Let's get into it. If Alutemu takes the win here, he is going straight through to the finals versus Surrender. But Shaxy needs to win to just hold on.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Alutemu's choice here of going for the Frostbolt over the Sandbinder, both of the single differences in both players' hands. It's going to work out pretty well for him here. We can clearly see, we could even see Apprentice Coin Frostbolt to curve into Banana Buffoon. But I think I actually like holding on to it here because he has the curve now of Frostbolt, Banana Buffoon, Apprentice, Double Banana, Cyclone, all that nonsense as well.
I like it as well just because you've negated the crazy opening from your opponent, which means you don't have to rush, especially when you've got a hand like this. This is nice though.
This changes things up drastically. The pickup of Conjurer's Calling, Elemental Evocation, sorry, means that Alutemu can completely disregard the Apprentice Cyclone opening for the moment and instead try and move towards Giant Conjurers. Because he was forced to play the Frostbolt, it means he does not have the full 10 cards on turn 4, which would allow him Evocation, Giant Coin, Conjurer's Calling. So maybe what we're looking at is an Apprentice Cyclone turn, and then on turn 5, a Giant play. It's very close. I think it's very, very close. And I think while it hurts for Alutemu to allow Shaxy to get the first Buffoon, take the value trade, and potentially have gone for Conjurer's Calling, which would actually have been pretty dreadful. I think Alutemu still had the right idea, because just plain Banana Buffoon on turn 3 gave him the most flexibility going forward with his game plan, which is pretty crucial in Mage.
Oh, is this just a hold for the Giant play?
Very
Are you
possible.
feeling it, Darren?
Very possible. I mean, he doesn't. He could play a card and still go for Evocation, Giant, Coin, Conjurer's Calling next turn.
Could save the coin though.
Yep.
And I don't even know what card you'd play, if I'm honest. I think like just ping pass, take the turn and save the coin.
So Alutemu knows that Giant is playable for Shaxy next turn. Maybe because of that, we see Evocation, Giant, Coin, Ping to take out the bigger of the 2 Banana Buffoons and get the first Giant in play. It means that double Elemental Evocation is not playable on turn 5, which is a pretty big downside. But if he's met with just Giant on the following turn, that's terrible for him. And so I actually think I like that play the
You
most.
could even use the banana trade, right? Afterwards.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah, if Shaxy slaps a Giant of his own down.
Yeah, I think we'd probably see one of the Banana Buffoons be traded in. But yes, I see your point. This does mean, though, with Shaxy's play, that he opens himself up to a 100% clear, and he knew it. Whereas if we had seen Evocation, Coin, Ping, you know, this is kind of the worst case scenario where there's Apprentice and Cyclone as well.
But most importantly, though, the Giant was always dead.
Right, that's what I mean.
Chose to
exactly.
happen. Yeah,
this play, the Giant is 100% able to be killed.
So he's now Alutemu just relying on the fact that he has double Apprentice haha turns with like, just refilled, swaps his hand for mage spells.
It's not a bad plan to be all in on.
It's not. But maybe this is because, I mean, I played a lot of this mage deck, but nowhere near as much as these guys. Is it a good enough plan in the mirror when you just played a Giant and it died?
Well,
maybe
it's
I
not
feel like a
ideal.
little-
And I think I still stand by that. I would have preferred to have seen evocation coin ping.
Oh my, this turn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the very clear downside of my play is that it makes this turn, it makes the fullback turn weaker, but it makes you less likely to rely on the fullback turn. Is the weird difference there? Yeah, I think I like the second apprentice as well. He can play literally every card in his hand. Yeah.
Go in. Can even conjures the Mana Cyclone afterwards.
Yes,
If you-
I mean,
if you really
I
want
I was looking at that quite heavily.
Oh my. Just sit back and enjoy this one, guys, because this is turns in Hearthstone that back when people first loaded up the game in, I think, 2014, no, 13, I think, originally.
They would have
Didn't think this was
quaking in their
possible.
boots
Yeah.
to see this, yeah.
They would have said this seems overpowered.
They would
We've
have
been
been
right.
correct.
Splitting image as well just isn't half bad.
Unexpected results. Is that better than ping? Killing off the apprentice is so huge. This was not a good series of cards for Alutemu to get. He really, really, really wanted Shooting Star, Arcane Missiles, Arcane Explosion,
Anything
Cinderstorm,
else,
anything. Frostbolt, Ray of Frost, Icicle. There were so many good cards he could have got there. He hit literally none of them. And you know, this game plan for Alutemu, as it currently stands, is still looking good enough to win him the game. He, if there's no apprentices killed, could just go Power of Creation on turn 6. Pretty nuts. Or even just, you know, all the other follow-up he has is still very, very reasonable. However, it's going to have to be more than reasonable if he wants to overcome Giant Conjurers next turn from Shaxy. The aggressive game plan is opening up more and more for Alutemu. Frost Nova and Blizzard now. Means he could just launch onto the board, freeze everything, and go for the lethal, assuming he's not met with a huge bunch of taunts off Grave Horrors. Which he very well may be.
Does he have a research project here?
Definitely considers it. It only
Because
overdraws one card from Shaxy, so that's not that relevant.
Yeah, I don't think it's... The overdraw's, you know, nice, one card, great. But I think that combined with, well, Alutemu just wants more cards, might just make it worth it.
I think it's something it's not bad for him to cast it, it's just, is there better stuff he can do on this turn? Like, for example, Splitting Image, Unexpected Results, and even a Conjurer's Calling, just to go as wide on the board as possible and threaten as much damage as you can.
I mean, this is also
I think this is fine.
too.
I think purely for the bluff factor, this is very reasonable.
Oh! Oh!
Oh! You should have gone for it first!
Misplay! Not strictly misplay, right?
What's bad?
Oh wait, he didn't play a minion. I autopilot to
Mana Cyclone?
Mana Wraith.
Mana Wraith,
Yeah.
yes, sorry, yes, Mana Wraith. Doomsayer, he didn't play any minion. Like, secrets are still good. He just missed a ping.
Most importantly, though, this Power of Creation next turn. If it's castable, which it feels like most of the time it is, because he only needs one Sorcerer's Apprentice to live.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really nice extra bonus to just keep the pressure on.
Is there anything? Kirintal Tricast is 4 mana, which makes your spells cost more. Struggling to think of anything. And there's cards that are good with secrets being played, spells being played after, like Mana Worm, and now at 2 mana as well. But either way, I think the main point for this turn for Alutemu is bluff. Secrets here are nuts, because given your opponent just drew cards, pinged, and passed, they're clearly setting up for a Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling. There are three secrets here that mess with that. Shaxy knows it, and he is baited out of going for it. He will now see it's not the mirror entity, and it's not the
It's
counter
literally
spell
all
as well.
the ones he doesn't care about.
Exactly.
It's Splitting Image, Ice Barrier, and Shaxy just didn't make an extremely powerful turn because of those secrets. Oh. One of the few times where someone saying you activated my trap card was not not the correct thing. I think the fact he didn't was better for Alutemu right now.
Alutemu here has just pulled off the heist of the century.
Yep. I'd love to see Power Creation, to be honest. I know he's gonna. He can go for Arcane Intellect, if I get my words out first, just to see. But Power of Creation, I feel, is just so solid in that it just gives you almost all the time
insane
two
stats.
very solid minions. Okay, this is one of the low rolls, but 2 4/5s just out of nowhere on top of this board that's already dangerous. Great. For 1 card, most importantly as well, it's just 1 card, 2 beefy minions.
For 6 mana, this is just insta-Ken.
Yeah.
You don't even have to wait for the death rattle.
Now, the problem here is, great, there's freezes, there's everything going on that Shaxy can use to delay this game, but can he freeze and develop a board and do the damage in the time required? I don't know. We're going to find out.
Okay, I like this from Alutemu. I was hesitant. I was surprised to see him not take the value trade there to play around Conjurer's Calling, especially with a Khadgar as well. But it's a pretty specific, it has to be exactly Khadgar, Conjurer's Calling, and Frost Nova, I think, for it to be an actual punish. And even then, if he took the value trade first, it would have made another Apprentice anyway. But I think Go Face and Ray of Frost is the best way to do that, because a big board here is not that bad.
I also think as well, he just didn't want his Apprentice to be pinged.
Also very possible.
Yeah, it just doesn't want... These Apprentices are stupid. They've been alive for just too long. And I just don't think he wanted to give Shaxy a ping turn to just remove one of his Apprentices that easily. So here we go, though. Shaxy going to start fighting back. Elemental Invocation, Mountain Giant, Mr. Khadgar, and a Conjurer's Calling.
It's worth pointing out, I think he still actually didn't know it wasn't Counterspell. Sorry, it wasn't a Spellbender, because he only played Mirror Image last turn. He didn't actually play a targeted spell, so that could have gone disastrously wrong. Oh wait, it did anyway.
No choice, doesn't matter.
Is that just game?
I think
that's just game with the ping that closes it out. Whoa,
Shaxy didn't get, 1, he dodged the Spellbender, but 2, he just didn't get a taunt from the Giants, which means the open up damage, which meant twice. And I'm not saying this is at Shaxy's fault both times, but twice, Shaxy was just dead on board.
He was just dead. And this just speaks so perfectly to Alutemu's playstyle, which is the reason I love seeing him play this mage so much. It's aggressive, man. He gets on board. He finds scrappy victories. Even though that turn where he played the Giant, I'm sure he would be the first to say he did not know the correct way to go about that, given that it got right down to the end of the rope there, where he could have gone for, Evocation Coin Ping to make it more likely to stick. He basically was just throwing down his Giant as a lamb to the slaughter. But I think he realized, even if that happens, that's such a tempo loss for my opponent having to play all the bananas, that he can just launch onto the board next turn with Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone. He realized exactly what he was doing there. And he just... Alutemu is so consistently able to get these victories. I think him and his best friend Khadgar are the most deserving player, is the most deserving player to get through to the finals of Asia Pacific.
And look at what the finals is going to be coming up shortly. We have Surrender versus Alutemu. Derek, I'm happy. And this goes beyond the players in Asia Pacific Grandmasters. They're all great. They've all proven themselves, right? Multiple times over different tournaments. But specifically Surrender for just its legacy, and then Alutemu with just the sheer power of play this season and how impressive he's been. This is a final I'm extremely hyped for. It's going to be a best of 5, so we're going to get slightly longer match to really put these players to the test. Don't go anywhere. We're going to set that match up right now, and we'll be right back with the finals.
本名叫刘伟杰，游戏 ID 叫学习，然后我有推许 Facebook。白头奶的 ID 其实是好像是朋友帮我取的，因为那时候就是想要一个酷炫的英文名字，然后还是帮我取之外，我才知道原来这叫念学习。俄罗斯最经典的回忆应该是那个世界赛奥斯卡跟泰斯打的那一场，就是兵法打兵法内战这样，就是两边打的几乎也是水深火热，很感动。我最喜欢的大师职业选手就是阿迪 U， 因为我是看他比赛才看到有点感动，我才喜欢上这款游戏。对我而言，成为大师的话，就是代表说我在这款游戏中我被认可了，我会继续努力。
私の名前は八島のぞみです。ハンドルネームはアルテムです。Twitter と Twitch は同じ名前でアルテムで登録してます。以前使っていたユーザーネームのマチャンプは、その時にプレイしていたゲームのお気に入りのキャラクターの名前をそのまま取った形だったんですよね。それで前々から変えようかなとは思ってたんですけど、自分のオリジナルの名前を使いたいなと思っていて、で、今回グランドマスターに選ばれた時にちょうどいい機会だと思って変えました。アルテムという名前自体に意味とか直接の語源はなくて、単純に文字の見た目と語感が、気に入ったというか、それで、この名前にしました。グランドマスターに選ばれたのを初めて知った時は、びっくりして、しばらくドキドキしてました。グループが発表されて、同じグループに去年の世界チャンピオンのトム選手と、あと自分が尊敬してる、トム選手も尊敬してるんですけど、サレンダー選手や、他の選手もみんなすごいプレーヤーばかりで、その中でしっかり戦っていけるように頑張りたいなと思ってます。去年も世界選手権まではたどり着けなかったんですけど、今年はもう世界選手権の一歩手前まで来られてるということで、そこで競技できることにワクワクしてます。コンクエストの時と違って番がないので、今までの場合ランク戦で練習しようとするとバンしたいヒーローと対面することが多かったんですけど、今回はスペシャリストの場合はそれがないので、ラダーで練習しやすいのは自分にとっていいことかなと思います。アジア地域で一番お気に入りの選手はタイラー選手です。自分が競技的に始めてすぐの頃によく彼の配信を見て勉強してました。全地域含めても一番はタイラー選手ですね。彼らと同じステージに立てて単純に嬉しいですし、戦えることがワクワクしています。
We are back and it is finals time. We've got 2 players left out of all of the Asia Pacific Grandmasters, and they are called Surrender and Alutemu. I'm pumped for this finals, Darren.
I absolutely am. Commiserations to Division B throughout all of Grandmasters. This is the #1 and #2 seed of Division A fighting it out for their spot at BlizzCon at the Global Finals. And I would argue 2 of the strongest performing players so far in Grandmasters. They both pretty much known what their strengths are in terms of decks, I would say. Alutemu, very much the mage specialist. Even if he is strong at other decks, which I'm sure he is, for me the standout is really just his mage play. I think he's extremely creative with it, which you have to be with the mage. And Surrender, on the other hand, I think his strong fundamental knowledge of Hearthstone is really allowing him to adapt to all the various situations that Rogue can throw at you with all the random generation it has.
It's the difference, right? Because there's being good at a deck and being good at executing things, and then there's just being good at the game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And I think Surrender is just a very, very, very good Hearthstone player who I think his consistency is actually his best trait overall. Yeah. He's just always good. At his worst days, he still plays well, which means at his best days, it's absurd. He is going to be on the Rogue here, as we've seen throughout the weekend, him bringing the Burgle Rogue versus Alutemu's Cyclone Mage, and I don't know, this is just going to be a good match, and this is why, even with some of the criticism that Specialist has received, we talked about a little bit earlier, but overall, we have ended up and had throughout this season a meta game of, yes, a select amount of classes being the main highlights and superstars, but at the moment, Mage, Warrior, Rogue being the kind of 3 big decks. The fact that they're all kind of even versus each other means that it's just, I don't know, every match is interesting and pretty hype because there's a lot of different things that can happen. I don't think overall anyone has just solved, like, this is how you play this matchup, this is how you play this matchup, and so on. I think a lot of them revolve around just adapting on the fly to the game as it happens.
I agree, and I would argue even one step further than that. I think that it's kind of distilled down even further from the best 3 decks to a best 2 decks. I think Rogue and Mage are pretty clearly, at least in the playoffs of Grandmasters, vying for the #1 most powerful deck. And if this is the matchup that defines this meta of Mage versus Rogue, sign me up. Exactly. I think it is such a brilliant matchup. It's difficult to play on both sides. It's, you know, it's not... Even though there's a lot of RNG in it, I think it's mostly the good kind of RNG where it's adapting to discover, adapting to generated cards, adapting to minions that come off Conjurer's Calling, rather than do you draw Keleseth, as we had in some of the previous metas.
Yes, there is, believe it or not, different levels of RNG. It's not just the same. Like, just across the board, there are varying degrees, which is why I think even today, and even though it's been out for a long time, Discover just feels like the best mechanic that's been added to Hearthstone in its life cycle.
I love it.
I think it's just solid. We've seen decision making of Discover be great and be terrible in pro play, you know, throughout the years.
You can. That's what I love about it, is that it's so often, it so rarely is great and terrible. You can always justify pretty much every choice off of a Discover option. Like, especially with Hench Clan Burglar in particular, we're like, oh, Rebuke could lower the cost of all the spells. Oh, but Pyroblast can go face, and it's like, oh, but you go for the Rock Biter. It's just that every time you can justify all the different options, and I think it's, as I've said, a great mechanic, and it makes Rogue very, very interesting at the moment.
Yeah, and just to give you a rough heads up of how this matchup will play out, it is the finals. The winner gets a spot into the global finals at BlizzCon, but most importantly, it is best of 5 for the first time in Hearthstone Grandmasters. And what this will probably mean is that we have primary deck versus primary deck game 1. Then we have the counter decks for the rest of X games that are required. First player to 3 wins takes the series and takes the global final spot. Here it is, Surrender from T1 on the top as the Rogue, and Alutemu, formerly known as the Player Gold Match Champ, on the bottom from Japan on the Cyclone Mage.
And both players have got themselves off to a pretty good start, I would say.
Seems good.
Yeah. Obviously, I think both players would like to start on the coin, but I mean,
they can't.
Yes, unfortunately. There's only so much money to go around. But Miscreant and Backstab, when you are on the play, is a fantastic consolation prize.
It really is, and I think it's if this is what you would deem fair as opening hands, great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a mulligan from Alutemu, though, just keeping the Cyclone and the Arcane Intellect. Does have that coin, which is important, of course. And Surrender, I didn't quite catch it, but it looked like a mostly keep as well.
It was a full keep, yeah. And again, this is the kind of, well, okay, I was going to, before Alutemu drew the absolute stone cold nuts, I was going to say this is the kind of starting hand I like to see against Rogue, because the realization, I think, very early on from the good players with Mage is that you don't go all in on Giant and Conjurer's Calling early on. Enjoy it, my Kyle. Is that you can go for these kind of starting hands with more minion focus.
Nothing wrong with getting a fresh drink for the start of this best of 5 finals, Derek.
Cheers.
There we go. That clip can never be shown because branding
You
exists.
had a branded beverage.
So do you. But anyway.
I don't know what it says.
Because it's not in
Bamboo
English.
charcoal water.
Let's go, though. We're going into Banana Buffoon, mainly because Alutemu has a second one. And look at this. Banana Buffoon, into Sorcerer's Apprentice, Banana, Cyclone with the Evocation. Or he can do it even quicker.
It's very good. However, this Banana Buffoon is the key that unlocks Surrender's hand as it currently stands. The backstab into Evil Miscreant, the dream there for Surrender.
And it only starts stacking up from here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad if he had to just go like say Alutemu went ping pass or coin AI or something. Surrender still could have just gone SI7 agent on curve, which is pretty good against mage, I would argue, especially when you're on the play, but this is definitely preferable. Oh man, Alutemu can just take it so slow if he wants to here. He doesn't have to do anything because he's just going to explode onto the board. He even has the AI to go after the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the fact that there's not even a remote need for him to cast it beforehand, because sometimes you have Pocket Galaxy and AI early on, but the rest of your hand is like, oh, I really want to play this Intellect to get something to bridge the gap.
You can't just pass him through.
Yeah, exactly. But here, there's just not even a remote need for Alutemu to get this this AI underway. As Darek tries to destroy the set.
Cable's too short, okay, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're too tall.
We'll meet in the middle.
That's where I come.
But the interesting thing is here that, well, both players are actually just doing insanely powerful things at this point in the game. Alutemu has got, as I said, pretty much the dream. He'll be able to explode onto the board, get 4, 5, 6 generated cards on the following turn. Surrender is turning up the heat, though. Just SI7 agent straight up on this turn to take out the Banana Buffoon and get the damage on board is crazy strong.
It is, and it's going to turn into one of those weird games where is the sheer power of Alutemu being able to generate that many spells better than rogue cards?
I'm not sure.
Don't know. You know, I don't actually know the answer to that question at all. It might be.
I think the fact that he'll have 2 mana left over after he plays all the Bananas Evocation Conjurers, Evocation Cyclone, sorry, and to have an Apprentice on board means that it's very possible Alutemu just clears this up on this turn, or at least deals with some of the minions.
It's so insane.
It is pretty insane.
Are you too young to know Banana Man? The superhero?
I do actually know Banana Man. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And was he with Super Ted? Was he to do with Super Ted? Were they similar shows?
I think one's a teddy bear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wait, was Super Teddy's bear? I don't even know.
Maybe. It rings
Anyway,
a bell.
it was a kid who had a banana and turned into a superhero.
Right.
This Sorcerer's Apprentice definitely feels like a superhero now, because that is 4 bananas. It's a 7/6 Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Alutemu is about to just add his Psychic Cyclone for an extra 1,000,000 spells. Oh.
Just play stuff. Just play stuff. It doesn't matter what. You just throw stuff onto the board. I love this. This gives him the highest chance of protecting the Sorcerer's Apprentice. This turn has gone from good to ridiculous very, very quickly.
And the following turns look pretty cool too. There's still the Pocket Galaxy.
Mage is pretty cool.
There's still Blizzard into Flamestrike. This is a freeze mage hand. Blizzard Flamestrike Antonidas with a Frostbolt.
Okay, yeah, so in the question of what's better, discover a rogue card or cheat out, what was
18
that?
million mana.
Like, I think that was actually like 8 or 9 mana that was cheated out on that turn. Yeah, I think I'd probably give the slight advantage to Alutemu there.
I think it was, I want to say 9.
4 bananas, AI, mirror image, the shooting star.
The Ray of Frost.
Ray of Frost.
The Cyclone.
Second Ray of Frost.
The Cyclone.
Cyclone is 2 more mana. That's 11 mana.
I didn't count the intellect.
That was
but
cheated on that turn. On turn 4. What is this deck?
And his hand's still full.
Innovate cheated out 2 mana and had to be nerfed. Oh my lord.
Oh, never change Hearthstone. Unless you're going to buff even more stuff to make it more silly.
Okay, however, with Surrender's generation here of the Kobold Lackey, at great personal expense, he is able to kill off the Apprentice. Which is a big deal.
I was going to call
That
this
is a big deal.
I was going to call this game like the Generation Wars, and I realized it might be misunderstood for some political, historical issue or something. But it is the card Generation Wars, and it's going a little bit nutty because this shows the power level of the 2 decks, right? An average Hearthstone deck should not have been able to survive that turn from Alutemu, and it has. Surrender upset at the Pocket Galaxy, because although it might look like a big 5 mana do nothing turn, it's done a lot that's still to come.
I would argue he was actually pretty happy about that, just because it's not a big development onto the board. Like Luna's Pocket Galaxy, when your opponent plays Galaxy and you have nothing on board, it's dreadful, right? Like that's usually the final nail in the coffin. Exactly. This instance, though, the fact that it wasn't, I don't know, giant and like evocation giant Conjurer's Calling, I don't even know if that was a possibility, but just something, right? Like it wasn't a big development onto the board. Means Surrender can just go for the aggression plan here.
Yeah, this may not be what Surrender was thinking, but my fear would be if they've got that many cards and played Pocket Galaxy, do they just have like Luna or Intellect, and then I'm scared?
Yeah, because there's a lot of card draw.
Because with that many cards in hand, Alutemu's chosen to play 5 mana do nothing this turn. That would scare me more than him playing minions, actually. But maybe that's just the way I think about it.
There's some consideration for a new challenger here, just to get yourself a big
just
minion
stuff,
in play. Yeah, it's actually not that bad.
Powered Shield.
Powered Shield is nuts, but like Surrender needs stuff to spend his mana on, and a new challenger is guaranteed mana expenditure.
About 7.
Exactly 7.
Well, not if you get the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Sorry, I slipped into Twitch chat mode then for a second.
You slipped into your true self, Raven.
Not at all.
I know who you are.
But now, though, who cares about the board? Which is why I like the Pocket Galaxy.
Yeah.
If you Pocket Galaxy, take the hit this turn, Blizzard. If that doesn't work, Flame Strike. If that doesn't work, okay, yeah, maybe you're dead.
Fair enough, you got me there, mate.
It's like I tried. Good job.
The power of 1,000 suns could not defeat you. Well played.
Is that Flame Strike's text or something? Clear the board with the power of 1,000 suns.
That's what it feels like.
Although, remember back in the day, Flame Strike, one of the ultimate AoEs, right?
Yes.
Now, 7 mana, deal 4 damage to the board. Just doesn't feel that cool, does it? It's like
the Giants just kind of laugh and brush it off and just punch you in the face.
It's like, did you see what Alutemu did with 4 mana? Like, I didn't even see it. You gasped, but
those are some pretty good options. Reckless Rocketeer
with Divine Shield.
Is that better than Cursed Castaway? It kind of has to be, right? That's nuts.
Look, Garrett, I'll allow you back into the Hunter Lodge for a second. Rush versus Charge.
Draw a card?
Charge.
Fair enough.
5 damage now. And it's got Divine Shield.
Agree.
That's actually... It's a sick playing around Flame Strike. Look at this damage, though, in all seriousness. For once. 4 damage from the pick, 2 from the Lackey, 3 from the Life Drinker, 2 from the SI. Not that you can do it all in the same turn, but that's just a lot of damage.
It is. And Alutemu is in a position where he could lose this game. It seems ridiculous. He has picked up an AI, so, you know, Khadgar, Mirror Image, AI, very possibly picks him up something big to throw down alongside that. I guess he could start with the AI if he wants to play that on this turn, but maybe he wants to throw in a Frostbolt Ping instead, because it could be Khadgar, Mirror Image, ping the 4-1, and then, yeah, Frostbolt the...
I guess. I was wondering whether he was going to just go for the big draw of Sea Giant.
I think this is probably better. Like, if even just one of these minions, these taunts survives, Alutemu is happy.
Okay, well, like I said, Surrender's got a lot of damage. The sap doesn't connect anything. No, it doesn't connect anything this turn, so I think he holds the sap.
Decision point now for Surrender, where he could clear off all of these mirror images with Kobold Lackey, SI7 Agent, even throw in a Life Drinker as well, whatever. That would mean leaving up the Khadgar, so I guess he has to Kobold or SI the Khadgar and leave up a mirror image. It's not much of a choice, I think, but it doesn't feel great.
So he can play everything but the weapon, right? Because he already has a weapon equipped and a 1-attack minion. That swing and attack clears a 0-2, which means that he may as well Life Drinker, SI, Kobold. I mean, the only problem is if he does that, he doesn't set up a bounce next turn.
That's what I mean. There is still some benefit to getting the Waggle pick down this turn, even if you just equip it as a 4-2. Or even if you just use it in the same effect as a dagger, just to deal 1 damage in combination with the Miscreant. It sets up for Life Drinker bounce next turn.
There's probably, yeah. It means you've got a guaranteed good bounce minion here with Surrender's Hand, right? And also, it's likely that this miscreant lives to do the other 1 damage to this mirror image.
Oh my lord.
Okay.
Sit back and watch.
This is game number 1, and it already feels like the final showdown in some kind of anime, doesn't it? Of just like it's just so swingy in terms of like who's getting ahead. Like Alutemu started off amazingly well, then Surrender fought back, and now it just keeps going back and forth. Oh.
This is like, again, I have not seen Dragon Ball Z, but this feels like Super Saiyan plus 57 at this point.
I'm sure it exists.
I'm sorry for all the fans in chat that I just upset so viscerally.
Sorry for
my
the,
nonsense.
I think the Dragon Ballers
is
what they're known as. It's definitely untrue, I'm making that up. but it's a great name.
My job is to talk about Hearthstone, and somehow that made me feel like that's less cool.
The tools of creation.
You don't want to be a Dragon Baller?
Nope. Okay. I'd love to be Alutemu though, as oh my good giddy aunt, is he keeping up with one hell of a turn?
He needs to kill off his own taunts now.
Oh my god!
Behold! Behold!
Behold Brokeback. Behold Brokeback.
Oh, even though...
I don't even think he could do everything he wanted to on that turn.
I think he's done enough.
I think that's more than enough, yes. Okay, swing is not...
Yes! Alutemu now just wielding the power of the universe as he's leveled up just a little bit. Surrender has no response other than like... Yeah, you got me. Oh.
So, there's a sap. Well, there's never... never lethal. Even, like, he could dagger to bounce, to get like a pseudo bounce effect off the...
So, what about... So, Kobold can kill the 3-2. He can play double Life Drinker this turn.
Well, he needs to think about setting up lethal next turn, because he can survive purely by sapping one of the giants, I believe. And at least on board. And so then from that position, he could try and set up for Life Drinker, swing, Life Drinker next turn.
But then you may as well play 1 Life Drinker now,
Fair
right?
enough. Yeah.
So 1 Life Drinker, sap, and then what? Kobold the probable face.
He was going for the bounce on one of the 2 damaging minions there. He missed both of them.
This could create damage, though.
Exactly, it could create damage. It could create more damage if he's very fortunate. Still in such a close position. I mean, Alutemu is a Zilliax away from just winning on the spot. Those are the 2 worst lackeys. Yeah. Well, basically, they're not Kobold or Ethereal, which were the only 2 that mattered.
I'd love it if out of all the targets, Surrender just sapped the Luna. It's just... Not again.
Alutemu still has Zilliax in deck, I believe, right? He hasn't played it yet.
Not that I can recall off the top of my
so,
head.
Yeah. So I think he can probably guaranteed draw through to it. The problem is that Mirror Image restricts board space, so if he wants to play it, he should play it first to only get 1 Mirror Image.
Should he?
Yes, I like this, because then he can still trade off the Apprentice.
Can he not just strike? It's very unlikely he's dead, right?
Well, I think if he draws Zilliax, he wins 100%.
Behold the tools of creation.
Well, there's Zilliax.
There it is.
Let's see if he converts it to that 100% win rate.
Trade off the Apprentice. Yep. I mean, no, I was... Oh no, sorry, we could still see Conjurer's calling on the Sea Giant to hope for a 10 drop, trade in the Luna, self-ping the Luna, magnetize the Zilliax on. That's what he's going for. I think this is very, very smart. If he hits a mech here, the game ends on the spot. If he hits double Hakar though, can things go wrong?
I don't think Trender can kill 2 Hakars.
I don't think he can.
The tools of creation.
I don't think there's anything Surrender can do. I think he gave himself such a fighting chance.
It all looked well until Alutemu drew and played about 8,000 mana's worth of cards in 1 turn.
Oh man. Like
the backstab is actually sick as well. If only the turn just wasn't quite as good for Alutemu. Yeah. Surrender probably could have just wiggled through that game and just about got the damage, but Alutemu... And we saw it earlier. He played, yes, believe it or not, Pocket Galaxy, quite powerful in the deck right now. Yep. But he played it into
A
almost a
scary
full
board.
board
Yeah,
against
yeah. That was
Rogue and
risky.
said, I am committing this mana. It didn't even massively pay off until what? 2 turns before? 3 turns before the end of the game? Yeah, it could have just not done much. And even if he'd drawn 1 Sea Giant at a time or something like that and not drawn the Luna, he wouldn't have drawn his deck as fast, which means he would have just presented 1 threat to surrender at a time, which Rogue is very apt at dealing with, that kind of just slow and steady threats, which means he did invest the 5 mana into that turn, and there was a chance it didn't pay off. It wasn't just, oh, I've cast Lunas, I win. I think it's still lower power level of, like, well, you've talked about before about, you know, Skull of Manari, right? If you play Skull of Manari and it doesn't get removed, and you have a demon in hand, well, it always does the thing, right? It always pulls a demon onto the board. Whereas this doesn't always pay off like that. Yes, that was magnificent, and Alutemu is probably pretty happy with that game. But still, it's not just a done thing, is my point.
Far from an auto-win card. As man, that was one of the most powerful games of Hearthstone I've seen in a long while. Both players did pretty much close to the absolute dream of what they want to do. But little did Surrender know that when Alutemu cheated out 11 mana's worth of stuff on turn 4, that wasn't even his final form. He still had to play Luna and Luna's Pocket Galaxy.
I think the only bad thing about that game is it's just going to make all the others probably feel worse, because I feel like that game should have been the last game in the series, whichever way the series goes. But now the players do have an option. This is still Specialist, even though it's best of 5, have an option to change deck. And it looks like Surrender is switching to his tertiary deck, which means that he is playing the Betrayal, Double Fairy Dragon, Walk the Plank, as we can see now. And again, I will repeat myself. I feel that the Fairy Dragon is the most high impact card out of these 5.
Yeah, I think they complement each other beautifully. I think like the Walk the Plank and Betrayal would get significantly worse without the inclusion of Fairy Dragon, because the removal cards are only good when they allow you to push damage phase, push tempo in the matchup, as has always been the case with Rogue. You know, Sap is good because you're able to get down a huge Edwin, or traditionally a questing adventurer, a gadget sand option, or whatever, to swing damage in, swing tempo in your favor and get the damage through to face, which is why I agree that while Betrayal and Walk the Plank are a little bit situational, deserving of a spot when you have the extra damage from Fairy Dragon.
It is -5 minions and only +2 back, so that is something to consider. So let's check out Alutemu's deck as he has moved over to his secondary, which is, you know, one of my favorite sideboards of the whole Grandmasters. Is just 2 halftime scavengers, -1 buffoon, which I told you earlier is one of the first cuts I would go to in the mage deck, even though I know you don't like it. But then the Archmage Antonidas as well, which is again versus Rogue, not that the most consistent card in the world.
It's just simple, it's clean, I think is why I like it. And you know, the Banana Buffoon, although it was absurdly powerful in that game, it was very nearly disastrous for Alutemu, because it was powerful due to the fact he already had an insanely powerful hand with Sorcerer's Apprentice, Evocation, and Cyclone. The downside of it was very apparent that it enabled Backstab Miscreant for Surrender, and that can very often lead to your downfall, which is why I like the cutting of Banana Buffoon in this deck, because again, you know, you never want to cut any cards in this mage deck. There's a reason it's the most powerful deck in Hearthstone. But you've got to cut something to get in the extra anti-aggro cards, and I think this is exactly the way to go.
It is, and let's get straight into it. Alutemu currently 1-0 up, and the double halftime scavenger in his opening hand. I don't know if he will keep them both, but yeah, the keeping one seems pretty reasonable to me. And Surrender's opening hand not looking too shabby either.
I think it's a bit of a misplay. I would have liked to see the 2 halftime scavengers combined to make a time scavenger, but it's a reasonable second.
Not full time?
Nope, just time scavenger. Your joke would have made far too much sense.
It would have made so much sense, it wouldn't have even really been a joke. Would have gone past.
Exactly.
Surrender. Tough mulligan, I think. For me, at least. He did just keep the SI. I would have been very tempted to keep some other stuff. And maybe they kept the Waggle Pick as well. Maybe I just like the card too much. But I think for me, at least, that was a bit of a tough mulligan. I'm not saying he was wrong in what he did, but the choices was a lot difficult.
I think when you're on the coin, you are allowed a somewhat heavier mulligan to look for the cards that you really want to see. Edwin #1, Miscreant probably still #2. But the thing is, these high attack minions for the mana cost, like Blink Fox, SS7 Agent, and Hench Clan Burglar, are super nice against Mage. Like we saw how nearly Surrender got the lethal damage in that previous game.
Alutemu is starting with just a mirror image. Just wants to use the mana right now, has nothing in his hand that's going to combo with it at all.
Yeah.
So mirror image probably into ping, probably into arcane intellect is the overall plan here for Alutemu.
Yeah, mirror image on one is actually something I've very recently started experimenting with myself, because it's a play you never really want to do traditionally because it's a weak turn. It offers no board control whatsoever. It's purely healing, basically, is what it's affording you here, or at least protecting some of your minions when they come down. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Alutemu because, it's either whether he does it turn 1 or turn 2 makes little difference. It's just he would miss a ping if he went for it on turn 2 instead. So I like it turn 1 instead of turn 2. And turn 3 and 4, he very clearly has full mana expenditure. AI, half-time scavenger. So get these down to protect him from those SIs, Blink Foxes, Edwin, Hench Clan Burglars. There's a lot of stuff that really is helpful to tank the damage from.
Yeah, just spend the mana while you can. It's never a truly terrible overall game plan in Hearthstone.
It has downsides, of course. He's down a card against to make Mountain Giant more expensive. He would like to save it to go with Khadgar or Sorcerer's Apprentice or Mana Cyclone. But as it currently stands, I think his hand is looking a little bit more heavily towards alternate routes rather than going for a big mirror image plan.
Yeah, and here's one of those questions. It's the exact question I asked you a little bit earlier. There's Lunas and there's Arcane Intellect, but if you don't play if you don't play Arcane Intellect, is ping good at ping into halftime into Luna into Intellect better? I don't know, because you lose a lot of tempo by doing this, and not that Arcane Intellect would have gained you tempo, but it gains you something.
Right. Well,
whereas
what does Arcane Intellect actually gain you here? Turn 4, turn 5. If he saves the Arcane Intellect, Pocket Galaxy is a valid turn 5 play. If he doesn't, it gets a lot sketchier. So I would argue, because AI on this turn doesn't likely affect his play on the next 2 turns, he could very, very much consider just holding on to it to then just go turn 4, turn 5, Scavenger, Galaxy, then draw afterwards.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because one thing that's tough to deal with is if you Luna, then AI, that is like 1.5 turns that you might do nothing against Rogue, and you might be dead.
That's
so
very
I
arguable.
think like using the mana now is reasonable, but still a difficult. I still don't know what's right.
It's tough because this is saying that Luna's Pocket Galaxy into Arcane Intellect on average is not good enough. So he needs to look for alternate lines of play, which I think is a very valid assumption to come to. He's already found a Mountain Giant. So instead he's just setting up for Giant Conjurer's Calling, it looks like, rather than the Galaxy.
And also he can go Galaxy now because he has Luna. So
yes,
he has some good options. He does have that card draw later in the game anyway.
Ooh.
Is Trade Giant ever good? Which oh!
Spirit of
the Shark? Yep.
It does nothing. It does literally nothing.
Does he have any battle cries in the deck?
Mana Cyclone, Banana Buffoon.
There you go.
That's pretty much it. It's nutty with those. Overall, I would say that this was an extremely poor outcome for Alutemu. There's always a second. Whenever there's that minion with stealth and the 0-3 stat line, I'm always like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it? Yeah. Like, imagine if he'd got Spirit of the Tiger instead, the Paladin one for 4 mana as well. Probably would have just been a lot of wisps being summoned instead, but I don't know. Pocket Galaxy summoning a 5/5, that's not bad.
And also, is summoning just a load of rubbish that bad against Rogue?
Right. Yeah,
like you've probably got minions to trade it off into, and it's not costing you anything extra.
As it currently stands, though, Alutemu is just getting beat up.
Here comes Fairy Dragon.
Oh. Okay. The double Cyclone this game. Is that even good?
Well, it means that you can cast half the spells and get the same value, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah,
he can do Magic Trick, Evocation, Cyclone, and gets 4 spells. Like, that's just fine.
That's nuts.
5 if you include the spell from the actual Magic Trick.
So should he go Lunas on this turn as well? Because... Or does he save the Evocation, right? Because what this play allows him to do is to set up for Giant Conjurer's Calling next turn. And so I think he should definitely be moving towards that as quick as humanly possible.
I think he might have to generate the spells.
Right, well, I'm saying he could go Magic Trick, whatever spell comes off of it, and then Cyclone to get him up to a full hand, and then save the evocation for Giant Conjurer's Calling. He might not have to do that because he could just get to the point where the Giant costs low enough anyway. If he gets a second Elemental Evocation, though, he could look at double Evocation Cyclone... No, double Evocation Giant, double Conjurer's Calling next turn. I don't think that was quite available, though, because he didn't have enough spells to cast. Or was it?
Or was it?
He could have gone Conjurer's Calling the Spirit of the Shark. Oh no, wait, because then he doesn't get the double Battle Cry. Yeah, no. This was good. He wouldn't get the Ice Barrier.
Conjurer's Calling again because he's already used
one. Oh, he's already used one. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he created Spell Shark. Yeah.
So many ways then. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is good. It still allows him Mountain Giant.
He got in the Pocket Galaxy too.
Yep. That's true. AI as well is pretty nuts now with the Pocket Galaxy 2. That was such a complicated turn, but I think Alutemu had the right idea because this play set him up for both Giant Conjurers next turn and also just a huge Lunar play.
Whereas I think this play sets Surrender up for just punching Alutemu in the face.
I agree with that. Super close to lethal.
The onus is very much on Alutemu to try and defend now, and he can. He does have Ice Barrier. He has Mirror Image. He has Vaporize as well. He could do all of those this turn, as well as kill off the 3-2.
He's just struggling on mana, which I know seems insane after he's played Luna's Pocket Galaxy, but like Ice Barrier for 3 mana, how can that be better than what he gets off the top? If he finds Ziliax, he's obviously in a fantastic position.
Well, I'm just thinking if he Ice Barrier, Vaporize, Mirror Images, just to buy a turn's worth of mana. So now he's got one more turn, one more natural card draw.
I think he has to do something pretty miraculous from where he's sat, because for all he knows, there's damage from over the top of taunts that he has to start moving towards Ziliax very quickly.
Brave point now for Alutemu. That's going to go for the Ice Barrier. Redman Surrender only runs one Eviscerate and then Generation cards and Life Drinkers that could sort of cheat the win past the Ice Barrier.
So now, obviously he does not know that it's Ice Barrier, but attacking him with one of the minions first to test for the Splitting Image first seems good, because if it's Splitting Image, he wins 100% with Leroy. So when he finds out it's Ice Barrier, he has like a chance to bounce the SI, but I think that still wouldn't deliver lethal through the 8 damage, the 8 heal of Ice Barrier, so I don't think there's any way that Surrender can get lethal this turn. Which means instead he has to focus on killing the Luna, because you can't leave that up. Yeah, I agree with this. I was testing for spells first, of course, because he still has the ability to kill it off, and he didn't want to play into... Oh wait, he knew it wasn't the Splitting Image at that point. It's getting complicated for Surrender. I think he's going about it the right way, though.
So now he knows
because he can
it's
still
either Barrier or Vape.
Correct.
Because Spellbender would have been procced as well.
Yes, yes.
Now, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward for Alutemu.
You can get in a free Apprentice if he desires as well. But you'd have to play the Giant first, of course, if he wants to play Conjurer's Calling as well. But that would allow him to play 2 Magic Tricks, which is actually pretty nuts.
May as well play the tricks first, right?
Yes.
Yep.
If he can get Ray of Frosts, he's in a pretty good position, actually.
I quite like Shooting Star.
I think I like Magic Trick. I think
okay.
he just really wants to find Ray of Frost above everything else.
Frostbolt's kind of like Ray of Frost.
Next turn, right now, it's nothing like Ray of Frost because he can't cast the Conjure Calling on the same turn.
I think it's worth taking, though.
I agree, it's the pick, yes. Oh.
Second Ice Barrier.
It's probably the pick because he's already got Snap Removal in Polymorph.
And he only needs to hold on for 2 seconds,
praise
right?
for taunts! Oh!
Double.
The absolute dream for Alutemu there.
Okay, well, I know what I'm doing if I'm Surrender. He did it last game. He can roll Reckless Rocketeer again.
Oh, off the Power of Creation. Well, that came off a new challenger. Maybe you can get it again on Power of Creation here.
Clear the taunts. Yeah, and he knows it's not counterspell, right? He knows he can
only,
play
yes,
spells.
It's only Vaporize or Ice Barrier. No?
Yeah.
Because did he play a minion last turn? He did, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. It's Vape or Ice Barrier as far as surrenders are aware. Wait. Yeah. He just does this and swings, right?
And then
he's just going for lethal.
A potential for lethal.
Yeah,
right
he gets another 2 damage lackey.
Okay. Yeah, I like this.
Okay.
Those are terrible.
He can evolve 3 times to try and get something that deals 4 damage to face.
I don't even know what does that.
Nothing. It was a joke. Taunt then. Oh. Barista. Oh! What? And he's gonna get. Is he gonna get this? Oh, he got Van Cleave.
Oh my God, Raven! This game. This is so close. But now he still has the Ice Barrier, which protects him.
But not if he draws a Shadow Step.
He can draw.
Oh! Zilliax! I mean, this turn just got simple, right? Play all your stuff, Frostbolt the face, and Zilliax and Nova.
Or would he rather Vaporize on this turn to play around Leroy going face? Like, he obviously has the Ice Barrier, but that's a lot of damage reduction.
He can... I guess if you have the Zilliax... So Surrender can still draw Eviscerate, right? Oh, he needs Eviscerate and a Shadow Step.
Yeah.
He's one off.
He can't get it on this turn. He can't. Ping and then...
Wait, he could.
Vaporize.
Togwaggle.
He can Togwaggle Wand! Togwaggle into the Wand on this turn! And Surrender set that up perfectly by holding onto the Lackey.
Yep.
Alutemu knows there's a Lackey in hand no matter what.
Oh, this could be Togwaggle, deal 2 damage, Togwaggle, Wand, Evis,
right.
Shadow Step.
Togchamp, it's time!
There's Shadow
oh my
Step!
God!
Toggers! I'm going to snap say this, but I think it's the only play.
Wait, he doesn't have lethal with Leroy up.
No, it's Barrier.
Well, no, because with the Shadow Step, he might have it in the case of everything other than Vaporize as well, but no, it's not just too much.
Is that real face? Bear in mind, though, as well, it's not like Surrender's dead next turn.
Good point.
There's just an 8/8 and the 3/1 on the board. The 3/1 he can kill this turn if he really wants.
Surrender has to be careful as well, though, because he's playing around another secret here. This could still be Spellbender, Counterspell, very importantly, so we're probably going to see...
He can test with Shadow Step, which is fine.
Because you want to Shadow Step this anyway.
Yeah. And now Wand.
Eviscerate not lethal as it currently stands.
Oh, he can now discover another spell. Oh, Shark! Oh. It would have been lethal if he just aimed it at face. Maul Strike!
Well, no, it wouldn't, right? It would have been one-off still, but either way.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, you're right. It needs to be this. Oh, so now Surrender just saying, okay, let the game continue. There's Mortal Strike in his hand.
He could have gone face there and set up Mortal Strike lethal though, right?
Well, if Alutemu puts him to the certain health, isn't it?
Well, it deals 4 damage, right? He dealt 4 damage to face this turn with Spirit of the Shark Drinker. And then
sorry.
Sorry,
No, you're right.
Spirit of the Shark Lackey.
You're right.
Wasn't that just better? Like, what can Alutemu do that A, kills Alutemu, which would have to be 11 damage from hand, or B, heals? There's no more heal in the deck. It would have to be exactly Counterspell to stop that, which he can test.
Is he worried about just dying to Sorcerers this turn? Surely not. I don't even know. I've lost my train with this game and with the series so far, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the Nova.
I wonder if that might just be the difference maker though for Surrender.
Now suddenly there isn't the strict liberty to say, oh well, Surrender's still got a couple of turns of damage left. He hasn't. Like,
he's considering the self-ping to play around Walk the Plank.
I don't hate it.
Oh my God, this is getting so complicated.
Oh, but if he pings face, the Frostbolt... Oh no, he can ping face next turn. Yeah. Because he Frostbolt the 2 trades and ping next turn, win him the game anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if he just
surrender
cobbled the
Kobold
face
last turn would have won him the game here. He can now go Spirit of the Shark into no relevant battle cries. Like he can clear stuff. He can clear stuff off. It's not like he's dead.
So he can Vendetta, Mortal Strike,
the Giant,
Spirit of the Shark, Van Cleef, and just make a giant Van Cleef, kill off the Giant. You're facing down 2 damage.
You could even throw the Bestial Wrath on the Sheep, just for an extra +4/+4 should he so desire.
That's worth saving. He might not ping the Sheep. That's just damage, Derek.
I suppose.
Okay, well, the second he swings, he's decided to punch through barrier.
Yeah.
I do like this. Yep. Remove the threat of you dying next turn. Oh, he's gonna. Huh? Oh, okay. I thought he played the Beast of Wrath afterwards. I was like, no, surrender. That's just wrong. There's no benefits to that. And bear in mind, there's still power of creation to create even more minions.
So Alutemu has another secret. Obviously, it's an ice barrier. Surrender, I think, will actually have a fairly good read that it's ice barrier because it only came into play after the first ice barrier.
Also,
yes, exactly. You can't have 2 of the same secret in play.
Also, with 0 mana Spirit of the Shark, the 1 mana Beast of Wrath as well, potentially, it means that Surrender has a good way of checking Entity, Spellbender, Counterspell. He can like just check off those without really losing anything.
That's an excellent point, actually. If another secret is played, Bestial Wrath into Power of Creation seems a lot better. Assuming the Sheep survives, of course. Well, Alutemu could play around it.
Feels so insignificant, doesn't it? Just a little sheep in the corner. But really, it's the most dangerous foe out there.
He's the mastermind behind this whole operation.
It wants you to think. It's like the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making people believe he didn't exist. It's just like the sheep. It's like, you think sheep are innocent beasts.
Well, Alutemu is clearly thinking he needs to ship everything face. And I think, again, Alutemu's biggest enemy is the rope so far in Grandmasters.
Another beast. We can get 2 more.
That's honestly just a good draw there, right? Because Surrender needs to play around another secret. Again, as I've said, he can have a pretty good read, I think, fairly good, that it's Ice Barrier, but he can't be certain. A swing face would obviously check that instantly, but he might have other plans for that dagger.
Okay, no Entity. Oh. Double Ethereal.
He's just running out of board space is the problem, though.
Not running out of spell space, though. Backstab? Not bad.
I guess.
Get rid of that Khadgar.
Yeah, that's fairly important. I was looking at, like, Fan of Knives just to draw a card, but it's not even that.
Where's Headcrack now? That's my question. Headcrack would be sick.
Good point. Pickpocket, though.
Get his own secret for his
oh my god.
Messenger Raven!
That's not bad.
Arcane
AI?
Intellect.
Okay, these
just
are
reasonable.
How is this game still so close?
Tested for Counterspell. Now he knows it's not Spellbender as well. Got rid of the Khadgar. Gonna swing. Boom. It's Ice Barrier. So now this opens up that I think Surrender is 100% sure that it is a Vaporize that is left. I think he's checked every single secret.
Like on this turn, Alutemu could go top deck Conjurer's Calling, double Corcoran Elite, the game ends. Like, I think it's getting slimmer and slimmer for Alutemu, but he could still take this. That makes it very slim. Can obviously.
So there's 15 damage in the assumption that Alutemu just frostbolts the Van Cleef, which I think happens 100% of the time this turn. You can't just take 10. There's still 15 available, and that's just if everything goes face. Or is there 14 available? Everything goes face, he trades one off, and then plays Leroy. 13 available because one will be vaped. But something getting a 1-1 getting vaporized is fine for Surrender.
Oh,
it opens
yeah.
up board space.
Excellent, that's good. I agree.
Backstab as well. Does he just trade off the Giant and say you'll never win just with the top deck? I think that's fair.
I think that's very fair.
How is Alutemu supposed to win? Just by playing 1 card a turn off the top? Surrender must
He's already
know.
played Luna. He's already played 2 intellects.
Surrender
3,
must
I
know
think.
that card's evocation as well, because what are you floating?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
or it's likely. Or a Cyclone,
yes.
number 2, I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah. I think like Cyclone would have come down already on that turn. And it's not randomly generated, I think, so he won't think it's another Vaporize.
Right. Another spell. This shark is
Another
still
2
alive.
spells, man.
Wait.
Oh,
That looks like lethal to me.
So what, 21 damage needed?
He tries to trade 1 off. So then there's 10, 11, 12,
11, 12, 13, 19,
18.
I think it's actually just short.
Just going to use the Cold Blood to trade. I like it.
Yes, I think if you can't win, you 100% kill off the Giant.
Kill off the Giant and you say, you cannot beat me with 1 card off the top every turn. Impossible. Oh, now he's got Walt the Plank and Sat. I
Should
think.
he even kill off the Shark just to play around Conjurer's Calling into like the absolute dream?
What is that though?
Well, Corkron to win the game.
I guess, yeah.
I think shipping the damage phase is like that's such an absurdly unlikely scenario to occur that I think shipping it face is on average more likely to lead you to a victory. Speaking of leading to a victory, I think Surrender's got it.
Observe and reflect.
Even if Alutemu can survive the turn, what single card top deck can get him there when he's played Luna?
Yeah, that's it. And that's why I really like Surrender. Just, yes, he didn't have lethal, so he couldn't have even gone for it or whatever, but just saying, actually, no fancy stuff. If I just kill every minion he plays for the rest of the game, I win.
Yeah. Even when all of his cost 1, it turns out that, well, when you're floating 9 mana a turn, it doesn't actually make any difference what the minion costs.
Right.
He's wondering, can I afford to hold this for Cyclone top deck, I guess, to try and get more spells? But yeah, just being dead to Leroy is too scary. And... game?
1 off.
1 off. 1 off game. Yep. 1 damage off lethal.
Sorry, you got the sentence right, just in the wrong order. Game, 1 off. Oh, 1 off. What a couple of games of Hearthstone we have had.
Goodness.
And let's bear in mind, there's going to be a couple more if Surrender wins this, because it is best of 5, i.e. first 2, 3, Unseen Saboteur. Nice.
That's true, yeah. The second best of 5 specialist match of the year.
Taking our team down to 11. There's a ton of pressure, and this Van Cleef cannot stay frozen forever.
Alutemu looks like he's got his hands in a silent prayer, but I've got to be honest, I'm not seeing anything that can pull him out of this one. The sap here as well. I mean, why not? There's no taunts left in the deck for Alutemu. It has to be combos of cards, and they just never get there.
Maybe Van Cleef can be frozen forever being the sum of this game. He's not going to pull an Ang and get released from the ice and bring balance to the rogue world.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to bring unbalance to Alutemu's face when he punches him directly in it.
That looks like lethal to
There we
me.
go.
And a bit of a shake head from Surrender, just saying, okay, woo, 1 and 1. Continue.
Even though at the end there, Alutemu was, you know, he was dead for quite a few turns. I don't think there were any outs he could have gotten to pull himself back in. Those few turns earlier where he was this close to stabilizing, that was unbelievable. Like, the top deck of the Ziliax with the Arcane Intellect so nearly just won him the game. If he'd been able to find earlier a Conjurer's Calling to swing back on the board, maybe another Frost Nova, something like that to get the damage rolling. Like, Khadgar Conjurer's Calling on the Spirit of the Shark probably just wins the game on the spot if he'd found that.
I think that was the point, isn't it? Is that I feel like in that game, Alutemu never got the wide big board at any real given time, and Surrender just put on pressure just too much and too often. It was just another nuts game though. I could watch this matchup all day actually.
So interesting.
Sick. And I don't think the players are going to particularly change. I would say that there's a chance that Surrender might like pull a bait and switch and go back to his regular deck, because up until Alutemu seen certain cards, then Alutemu won't know that Walk the Plank is not there and the Trail is not there. But I think the Fairy Dragons just about shore up the weakness enough to warrant not doing that, unless you only want to do it to mess with your opponent, and because it's a best of 5, it's a longer format.
I think obviously there is some advantage to be gained by messing with your opponent's mind. Like if they have to play around the cards so heavily that it warps their play to much weaker plays, it's almost as good as just having them in your deck anyway.
Right.
Just because they can't just slam Giant on 4,
Almost
for example.
better because they don't take up a slot.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. That's the advantage you get, is that you can then put other better cards in there. But I still think overall they're just good. Very often the mage has to go for those kind of plays where they just say, okay, if they have it, they win. If they don't, I'm going to take the game. And so I think, it's unlikely we see the players switch decks.
Yeah, and Alutemu, there's no reason for me. You don't gain anything by playing mind games. You just lose potential early game advantages with the help of those half-time scavengers. So far, 1-1, Derek. Can you even...
I cannot.
Guess who you think is going to win here, because it feels so even and it's on such an epic scale right now that I'm kind of glad it's best of 5, because I just want this to continue if these games continue like they are now.
I think I'm giving the edge to Surrender as it currently stands. I think that despite the fact that it still seems so close as to who is in the lead in this matchup, like just the small things I think are pulling it in favor of Surrender. Because like even if you just look at how it's a best of 5 versus a best of 3, the way that affects that is that more games will be played, a higher percentage of the games within the series will be played with secondary and tertiary decks.
Right.
And I think when both players switch to their anti-opponent sideboard, the rogue, it swings in the rogue's favor ever so slightly, or more so than it was before. And so I think, again, because Surrender has more games to be played on those sideboard decks, usually he's at an advantage. Usually, though, your opponent doesn't have Arcane Intellect, Elemental Evocation, and Mountain Giant in the hand before they even mulligan.
That is true. So we move on to game number 3. And just a reminder, this is not the last game of the series. We are playing a best of 5, just for the first time in Grandmasters at least, which means that Surrender or Alutemu will need to go 3 and X basically to win the series and take the spot at the global finals being held at BlizzCon in November this year. So everything's even, and there's at least a few more games to play out.
So exciting, dude. This is like, imagine like months on down the line when BlizzCon finally rolls around. We're going to be thinking back to this very moment when Alutemu or Surrender qualified through.
Yeah, and like I said, honestly, there's always... Look, we're casters, but we also play and watch the game. So there's always inherent, like, people have just, like, even small biases, right? Of just, oh, I'd really like to see this play as either a friend or, someone you respect a lot, so on and so on. But here, I love Surrender, but if whoever wins, fantastic. It's going to be a great representative for the Asia-Pacific Grandmasters region. And I think I have a very solid chance at even taking it before I've even seen who's qualified from EU and the Americas region this weekend.
The other regions are also unbelievable. If you haven't seen, the European semi-finalists is the top 3 point earners from Europe last year in Hunter Ace, Fino, and Psycho. Plus Orange, one of the best performing players in Europe ever.
Of all time, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
I could not... I mean, Europe is so stacked, like with famous players in the Western scene, that I would struggle to think of a lineup I wouldn't be impressed with. But I mean, this is just something else. Like, so far, whatever qualms some of the players have had with the way Grandmasters has been structured, it's pretty undeniable that the better players are, on average, rising up to the top.
Yeah, I would agree with that in general. Surrender? Gonna get pinged in the face for his effort. And already has the dagger equipped, pretty slow, and now...
Wow, how does a strictly worse Silverback Patriarch sound?
And this is one of those weird moments where the sideboard can sometimes warp your understanding and appreciation of the deck, right? Because look, 2 Walk the Planks that have done nothing, those 2 Walk the Planks would be 2 playable minions right now. Right. Outside of exactly... wait, let me just double check. Yeah, outside of exactly Ziliax,
it's all cheap minions.
And
that
a
were
life
substituted
drinker,
out.
it would be playable. So it means that Surrender wouldn't have had to play this Miscreant. But
the thing is, yes, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, but we can see 2 giants in the hand from Alutemu.
Exactly.
And if Alutemu plays a giant and Surrender just Thanos snaps it away with a walk the plank, then you snap all the way back to going, okay. And this is why it's so hard to build a side deck.
Yes, this is, I mean, considering how strong Alutemu's hand was looking, Surrender has pretty much the perfect counter to it, which is why Alutemu is playing around to the best of his abilities. Because I think it's pretty clear if he had a Conjurer's Calling in hand, we'd see the insta-play. Exactly, Evocation, Giant, Coin, Conjurers. The thing is, Halftime Scavenger also becomes a lot worse without Conjurer's Calling as well, because you want to play it, value trade, Conjurer's Calling what's left over. But it is unbelievably less weak to exactly walk the plank.
I think right now, on top of it just being a solid play, I think with this deck, when you don't have Conjurer's Calling, you have to kind of expect you're going to draw it soon.
Yes.
You know, I think that's just what you've got to do. You can't just say, well, I don't have Conjurer's Calling, so I can't play as if I've got Conjurer's Calling for the next 5 turns. It just doesn't work like that.
And I think the other reason why I like this play from Alutemu is that I imagine he will have a very strong read on Walk the Plank as it currently stands from Surrender, because 1 card was kept on the mulligan, and the play was unactivated Miscreant on turn 3 into Life Drinker.
Yep.
The cards you keep against Mage are Fairy Dragon, Blink Fox, SI7 Agent, Hench Clan Burglar, and Walk the Plank. Right, it's proactive minions or giant killers.
There was still a Cable Rat in the deck that you would have, tried to keep and play, of course, and so on, so on. But
if he had it, he would have played it, and therefore I think Alutemu, 1 card was kept, and it wasn't any of the better on-curve options than a 1/4 than a 3/3 on curve. So I think the pretty much only option it could be is Walk the Plank, or maybe an Edwin that didn't get the activator, but I think that's a less strong read.
Also, as well, Edwin off coin as a keep.
Well, I think you'd consider it, but yes, I think Walk the Plank is more likely.
Now we see Alutemu again, just working out exactly what he needs to do with this turn. The rope is burning, getting to halfway. And I was going to suggest maybe sometimes you do just throw a giant down, let your opponent spend 4 mana on it if you think there's a Walk the Plank there, and then kind of have a flat you pass, I pass turn, and then try and do something else afterwards. After 1 Walk the Plank's played, it's less likely the second one is already there, but still I think Alutemu just had a bit of rope pressure combined with maybe 1 too many options right now.
And I think this is fine for Alutemu, even if the Walk the Plank comes down, it's 3 mana versus 4 mana, right? It looks terrible because it's an 8/8 being gotten rid of here, but it was only a 3-drop for him. It cost him 3 mana, so I think in the overall tempo loss, it's really not that bad.
I wonder if Surrender ever considers Goblin Lackey trade Eviscerate?
Why?
Trade?
What, over just Walk the Plank?
Well, because the rest of the turn's weak if he walks the plank.
You can double Goblin Lackey, right?
Yeah, I guess.
You could then buff the attack on one of the minions and then Lackey the other Lackey
Trade
to
push.
take off the...
Yeah, you know what? Okay. I was trying to work out that does Walk the Plank get better if you save it? As in, if you can kill a giant this turn without it, does just holding Walk the Plank and keeping the pressure on Alutemu ever work out better?
Yes.
And I'm not saying it does, I was just asking the question.
Right. I think the only time it becomes better is if you're hit with exactly giant plus freeze, because then it's pretty much your only option. But even then, Surrender has a second Walk the Plank and a second sap. He has every base covered here in terms of giant plays, well, specifically Mountain Giant or Sea Giant from Alutemu, not just large plays overall.
Yeah, I thought it was just really good plays.
Yeah. I do need to sort out my vocabulary on that because I do often actually just mix the two up completely. But now for Alutemu, he has seen the Walk the Plank. It was a fairly considered Walk the Plank, so I wonder if he's making the read that Surrender was hesitant to use it and will therefore go Giant Freeze is definitely what I'm looking at most of all. Mountain Giant Freeze, not a Giant Freeze, which is kind of what Frost Nova is as well. Because he can make the read, I think, that the majority of the time, second Walk the Plank is not there.
Alutemu probably a little bit upset seeing Sea Giant, because this is one of the turns that he could have gone pretty beefy with Luna. if his draw was not a 6 cost, because he has Luna, Apprentice, Coin, Apprentice, and then the Magic Trick's there, the Frost Nova's there that he could maybe get away with, and so on, so on. Maybe not exactly those lines of play, but...
I mean, he could still have considered a Luna's turn on this turn, because he could have gone Magic Trick to shuffle a card over to the right-hand side. Right. But I agree, that's probably
it's much more reliant off the top of your deck, right?
Yes.
Whereas next turn, it's looking a little bit better, if he needs it, of course. Because now I think Alutemu just needs to fish for that Conjurer's Calling, and I think Luna's the way to do it.
I agree. He also needs to pray that Surrender does not have a second Walk the Plank.
And right now, this is the moment where decisions are made, because if, again, I am way too much of an aggressive player, but all I see now is like Leroy Waggle Pick. You know, not this turn, of course, but like it's so much damage.
You set up for it 100%.
And Surrender, like, sorry, Alutemu, would he have just already played? If he had Conjurer's Calling, he played like a super cheap giant and didn't Conjurer's it.
Right, because if he had Conjurer's Calling, given that we've seen... Okay, so Surrender now knows that on turn 4, Alutemu had Giant Giant and Elemental Evocation, which would have allowed for Conjurer's Calling to come down.
Oh, I love it.
So I guess there is actually just a pretty strong read that there's no Conjurer's Calling.
Such a good play. Like, now, what is the answer that ticks all boxes for Alutemu here? There isn't really one, right? If he Novas and stops the damage, fine. But he cannot normally Nova play a threat that's reasonable, that Surrender can't deal with.
I like this a lot.
Even if it's the sickest turn from Alutemu, Surrender just walks the plank.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, do it again and again, and he just can't. And it's why Waggle Pick's one of the best cards in the deck and one of the nuttiest cards in Rogue. Not only is it just a solid mana-costed weapon that hits for 8, it's the fear of when your opponent swings it once, you're like, oh no, like how much damage can they put out this next turn because of currently the Rogue deck running Leroy, Life Drinkers, SI7 agents, lackeys that can do extra damage too.
Yeah.
There's so much damage available when you can Shadow Step. It makes this Waggle Pick just horrible to play against in this situation. And I just don't really know what Alutemu does. I don't know what's the correct way to deal with this board. The board isn't even impressive, but it is.
Yeah,
it's a bad board that's good enough. It's weird.
This is what I was looking at, is just get the Ziliax ping down. Like, I don't know, he could have considered trying to play Banana Buffoon to set up for better Stargazer Luna, but I guess he draws an extra card anyway. So it's more likely, I think, that we're setting up for a powerhouse turn with Luna next turn. Or top deck Conjurer's Calling and go with the Mountain Giant is the, I guess, the dream.
What about Eviscerate? The 3/2.
I'm actually wondering if you ever walk the plank just to save all the damage possible. Like, can you go... you can't play Leroy on the same turn, right? So I guess that's the downside. Because if you go walk the plank Leroy and then step the Leroy after attacking, I think that would be pretty nuts.
You can Eviscerate Leroy, step the Leroy. Yes. That's what I was getting at.
I guess you could
because then you have walk the plank Leroy next turn if he gets a taunt.
Yeah, you could go... no, yeah. So I guess you go Eviscerate Leroy, swing everything face,
I think
and
you
then swing with the Waggle Pick, and then Shadow Step if it misses.
Wait, yes, Shadow Step last was exactly what I was about to get to before you got me beat me to it.
Huh. Oh, okay.
You can still Leroy. This gives him a less chance of guaranteeing Leroy, of course, from the swing.
Yeah, and you know, with the way it works, the way that Surrender's losing at the moment is that's pretty good. Is the way he's losing? Sorry, is Mountain Giant into Conjurer's Calling, and so by going for Leroy and removing power from the board, that does not play around that very effectively. Whereas this puts a much higher amount of stats on board, and therefore does play around Giant Conjurer's Calling, I would argue, very effectively.
Yep, and hold on to your seats right now because Alutemu can kind of get some work done depending on how that Discover went.
That was a tough choice.
He's going to draw with Luna's got the Ice Barrier to help out. But again, this is just the big question for me. Can he defend and at any real point put on a threat himself? Because if he never threatens Surrender with anything, then he still loses no matter the defense. Ray of Frost is a huge pickup there, though.
That's massive.
Oh,
that
it saved so much damage.
Yeah, that is light and day. Night and day. Light and dark.
Light and day.
Wow, yeah, I'm just making up nonsense, it would appear.
Or maybe it's just too deep. I don't get it. That's the way you talk yourself out of those, Derek. You're like, you just don't understand the complexity.
We say that all the time.
Even the Arcane Explosion just isn't too shabby. Maybe not right now.
There has to be something better, though. It has to be the coin ice barrier or a coin giant, right?
Like I said, maybe not right now, but I think in general it's pretty good. Pretty good job.
Wow, this is just maximum damage control for Alutemu here.
So now there's 2, there's 6 damage, there's a Leroy, and maybe...
There is lethal.
Yeah.
With air quotation marks here represented.
Yeah, Surrender went Leroy. Wait a minute, what are the numbers?
Is it ever good? No. Yeah, I was wondering if it was ever good to like give your opponent more whelps with Shark, but no, that doesn't have any benefit.
The trade makes the
still
Leroy
lethal.
more likely.
Yeah.
1 in 3. Oh! And that's green to me. Surrender gives a nod, and that means Leroy got bounced by the Waggle pick, and that is going to be lethal. Alutemu obviously and visually disappointed there with the ending of that game. 1 in 3 chance, but Surrender went for it, and he now takes the lead in the series. 2-1 in the finals of the Asia Pacific playoffs. We've still got more games though, because it is a best of 5, but again, just another tense game. I feel like that one though, less back and forth and more Surrender just putting his foot down and not really letting Alutemu wiggle out of it.
Yeah, that was kind of the situation you don't want to be in as the mage, where you fall behind early on, both giants are dealt with very easily, and then you're just playing catch up from there on in. To be fair, it would have been a very different game if we'd seen a Conjurer's Calling from Alutemu, but what more do you want, man? Like, he had such a good starting hand with AI, Giant, Evocation, just all the makings of a fantastic hand.
Yeah, and the thing is with the deck as well is, yes, the Conjurer's Calling turns are often the most generally impactful turns in any game playing this deck. You cannot play a deck that needs to draw 1 card to make it be good, right?
Right.
So, like, there are games you don't draw it, and those are the games you also really have to win, which is just like any deck. Sometimes you don't draw your key cards. You have to put together a win somehow. Alutemu did okay, but I think Surrender's just constant pressure. Surrender just didn't let up. There wasn't a turn to give Alutemu any wiggle room. It's like I was saying throughout the game. Alutemu couldn't defend and present some kind of threat at the same time. Surrender never gave him the option, and it just really was enough as he just kept it up long enough.
It was, and I wonder if therefore we will see a slight change in game plan for Alutemu, because remember, his starting hand was a giant pre-mulligan, and he kept it, I believe, in his starting hand, which is understandable given he had the Evocation and the Arcane Intellect. It was a hand that pointed very clearly towards Giant Conjurer's Calling. But given that this is Surrender's secondary deck, he has to consider much more carefully the anti-mage options, the walk the planks that we saw, the betrayal that we saw, which means if he had the choice between having the starting hand of Giant AI, Evocation and Conjurer's Calling, or Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone, Elemental Evocation, Magic Trick, or Banana Buffoon, whatever, he'd probably pick the latter, just because it gives him more ability to not play into the powerhouse turns from Surrender.
It's also one of the weird mulligan intricacies of the deck and why practicing for GM is hard, because not only do you need to work out the matchup at a base, if you queued this on ladder, what does it look like level, which is, you could say, primary deck, you have to work out the matchup of your secondary or tertiary, whatever, versus theirs, and how that works out. Because, as an example, should Alutemu mulligan away cards like Giant for Conjurer's Calling to just have more flexibility in general, and also the fact that Alutemu does not run a Sandbinder, which means but yeah, that's one of the negatives. Alutemu doesn't run Sandbinder, which means it's one minion that does not draw him a giant easily, but he has put 2 half-time scavengers in, so even if he throws Giant, it's not like that's his only early play, right? He has all the spells combinations that you mentioned. There's half-time scavengers and also a higher likelihood that he can get Conjurer's Calling, which opens up more options. And now, let's go into game number 4. Surrender is on match point, 1 game win, and he is in.
Oh man, these opening hands.
To the global Finn. Is as good as I could make that rhyme, I'm sorry. But yes, carry on, Derek, because you make much better points than I make jokes.
I shall do. My points are sharper than a pin.
Maybe not.
Definitely not. Blunter than a brick, I think is a bit more appropriate. But for Alutemu, this starting hand, such an interesting little one because, you know, I think something that I often suffer from as a Cyclone Mage player is tunnel visioning much too hard on the idea that the benefit of casting a bunch of spells with Sorcerer's Apprentice in a turn is Cyclone. Like, that's why it's good, is because you refill your hand. The benefit of casting all these spells with Sorcerer's Apprentice is that you cheat out like 5, 6, 7 mana on turn 4 or turn 3. It's just not so powerful on its own. That's not so, not so.
Yeah, I was just about to make that
incredibly
clarification.
powerful, yeah, on its own. And so from Alutemu here, this keep of it in this starting hand, it speaks to exactly what I was talking about, which is playing for a more proactive style rather than relying on Giant.
Look at this opening hand from Surrender, though.
Pretty nuts.
Sign me up to that. I'll take a Leroy Chilling in my hand for the rest of this one. Oh,
I'll have what he's having.
Yes, Fairy Dragon on 2. Perfect for the rogue player in Surrender here, but then backstab into Evil Miscreant because although...
Oh my god.
Although you never want your opponent to do strong things.
Yeah.
You do when you have the perfect answer and enables your strong thing. And this might be the start of the end. Alutemu gives a nod just saying, I went for it. This would have been great if I got it because he gets to cheat out, what, 5 mana at least next turn with the Buffoon into Bananas.
Yeah.
But now Alutemu needs to quickly get a plan together because this game could end quite dramatically.
And he has one. To be fair, you know, the mirror images, despite this was pretty much the worst case scenario, outside of a huge Edwin, I suppose, in the worst case scenario, he has a very strong backup plan. The mirror images buy him some time to go for Coin, Pocket Galaxy, into Arcane Intellect, and then whatever he gets, plus Conjurer's Call. His hand tells a story, and he's just going to have to play it out.
He can do it. It's not over yet. It's just going to be hard.
It ain't going to be easy.
Academic Espionage, Cannon Barrage, and Stolen Steel.
These suck.
They do suck. I guess Stolen Steel because it's just the cheapest card that might...
It's just the one that does something.
Well, also as well, I think your average weapon just pushes a solid amount of damage.
Agree.
And with Surrender's opening, you want to push damage right now. This is insane.
Faux show.
Okay.
Oof. That's interesting. Like, if his game plan was Coin Galaxy into AI cheap minions, that's been shaken up quite drastically now because the plan now, I guess, is AI this turn, Giant Coin Conjurer's Calling next turn. But is that better? Is that good enough to win? Is that basically conceding versus betrayal? Or walk
Does
the
he
plank?
just Giant now? It's bad if there's walk the plank,
You
but
never Giant now. That's like the worst play by Miles.
I think Banana and your opponent's minions is the worst play by Miles.
Okay.
I'll take my out there, but I'll escape that one.
I think with this hand, you have to set up for a better Giant than just play Giant.
Sometimes you have to live in a world where perfection happens. Alutemu's got a very... This is probably the game-deciding choice.
100%. These are two incredibly distinct options that he has. Which path does he go down? He chooses to go for the immediately more reliable payout option of Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling instead of the riskier play that had the potential higher upside of the Luna's Pocket Galaxy. And I think it's correct because he can't pass for 2 turns.
Do you think Surrender watched Orange play?
Oh.
There's Leroy Shadow Step available. And not much else. He doesn't have to do it, but he could, and it's not terrible.
That's so bad in the case of double Grave Horror coming down next turn, though, right? So, well, actually, what's the discrete breakpoints? He goes down to 15 health. Double Life Drinker, or Life Drinker Step Life Drinker is like an extra 6, which only gets him down to 9. Like, so for Surrender, I think the situation is no matter what he does here, if it's double Mountain Giant off of this play for Alutemu, good. Double Grave Horror, bad.
Right.
And obviously, one Grave Horror is fine.
Which is just the case.
Yes, that's pretty much always the case. Yeah.
So the problem here that Surrender's got is Life Drinker feels a little bit lackluster. Stolen Steel could whiff. So I think he's gone with the most stable option. I wonder whether he uses Shadow Step, though.
So what was a consideration there was stepping a lackey to go for High Sparrow and Togwaggle next turn. I would have very much not liked that, because I think it's so unlikely that Alutemu clears off both of these minions, and like if he does that, that's just a game-losing play anyway.
Would you have liked Step in the Miscreant?
Oh.
Because you could have replayed it this turn, got 2 more lackeys to mess around with.
That's true. I think as it currently stands, though, Surrender's probably a little bit more all-in, on stepping the damage cards rather than the value cards. Because with High Sparrow and Togwaggle next turn, there's very, very limited scenarios where he runs out of stuff to do. So I think closing the game out as soon as possible is Surrender's best chance here.
Well, here we go. This could be game life and tournament life on the line. Surrenders after no taunts, and he gets no taunts. Derek, add up some damage.
What is that? He can step the drinker, but he can't. Oh, he can step the 1 damage. That's just game. That's it. Surrender's our champion.
Surrender in Grandmasters Season 1 Finals is going to take it 3-1 over Alutemu with the Rogue versus the Mage. Surrender, one of the most storied players in the Asia-Pacific region, and he is going to the Global Finals. Goodbye, Alutemu. It was fantastic watching you. I look forward to seeing you work in Season 2. But for now, Surrender is your Season 1 Asia-Pacific champion. Wow.
What a road it's been for him. Just unbelievable rogue play consistently along the way. And I think he's been the perfect example of mastering the specialist format, where he has shown degrees of flexibility along the weeks. He hasn't been playing purely rogue. He's been switching it up. But when it came down to it, he goes with his gut, picks the rogue, and is just an absolute powerhouse on this deck, a specialist of the rogue class.
It is, and I think, you know, there was weeks when he played Warrior for a couple of weeks. I think he went Bomb Warrior, and I think I really enjoy just the sprinkling of different classes in.
Yes.
Not going completely like different class every week, or you know, just being a little bit consistent with what you're good at, but then a sprinkling of a different class. I really like it. Some other players have done that as well. Staz kind of did that, but then found his comfort zone in a Hunter. But overall, I think, one, that series was just fantastic, even though it went 3-1, which might sound a little bit more lopsided than it actually was, in my opinion. I think it was very close, but just Alutemu on Mage, Surrender on Rogue. Fantastic ending to Season 1 of Grandmasters.
I would agree, but for Alutemu on the other side, taking a second place, he unfortunately does not get a spot, at least in Season 1 of qualifying through to the Global Finals at BlizzCon. But it has just been an absolute delight watching him play. I think that Mage is pretty undeniably, if not the most difficult deck, right up there in Hearthstone at the moment. And I think given current theory on how the deck should be played, Alutemu has got that down to a science. Like, it is incredible watching him play this deck.
Yeah, he doesn't get a spot at the Global Finals this time, but he is playing in Season 2. And if I was anyone else in this tournament, I would be terrified of Alutemu, seeing what he's done this season. He's just dominating fashion with, as you said, one of the strongest decks, but also one of the most difficult to play across a long period of games. I think he's done very, very well. And also, of course, a shout out to Shaxy and Staz, who made up the top 4 from the 16 players from the Asia-Pacific region. We are just getting hold of Surrender, getting ready for an interview, I believe, and hopefully we can get that. But I'm just, I'm happy it's the end of Season 1, but it's, I'm happy that we've got a great winner. We're going to be moving on to Season 2 shortly, but that's going to be it for us for a while.
It is a bit of a break in Hearthstone. It's been a pretty crazy 9 weeks we've had of just so much Hearthstone every single weekend. Traveling all over the world to get to be a part of it has just been a delight, and I feel honored.
Yeah, well, let's talk to the man of the hour, as we've got Surrender here. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So first off, huge congratulations. Yeah, great job. You've got your spot at the Global Finals. I just want to ask you just how you felt throughout that series, because for us casting, it was intense and it was crazy. But how did you find it on your end?
Actually, I don't think I have played my games perfect. I think I have made a lot of mistakes, but I tried my best, though.
Okay, well, you got there anyway. And what does it mean to you to just already have that spot in the Global Finals? You're going to be going to BlizzCon and being able to compete to potentially become the world champion.
Yeah, going to global final is I couldn't be happier than going to BlizzCon.
Yeah.
I'm really happy, and it feels really good to compete in World Championship again. Because last time when I was playing World Championship, I only got top 4. But maybe this time I can win it.
That's the plan.
Only top 4.
Yeah, only got top 4 in Worlds.
Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. But I guess here I just want to ask you about your thoughts of how that series went, because I think we agree there were a couple of things that you could have maybe done better to set up for lethals. But overall, it feels like you're getting Rogue down to. I mean, you're playing Rogue super well. It feels like you've got the class pretty much figured out.
Yeah, my friends, especially Sixo, he always forced me to play aggressive, but I just can't. It's too hard.
Just more of a safe player. And I guess while we've got you now, and while we are ending Season 1 for Asia Pacific right now, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to and to thank that helped you with preparation to become the winner of Season 1?
I would like to shout out to all of my practice partners, especially Korean friends. They were so supportive, and they were so willing to help me. Once they even did practice with me for 10 hours straight. They are so supportive.
Yeah,
thank you to all my Korean friends.
Yeah, those are some good friends if they're going to practice for that many hours with you, but it seemed to have worked, so, a great shout out for them. And we are done, so thanks a lot, Surrender, and congratulations once more. And we'll see you not only next season, but we'll see you at the Global Finals as well.
Yeah, see you.
Okay, well, I don't know about you, Derek. I've had a great day of Hearthstone, a great weekend of Hearthstone, and a great note to finish on, I think. Just, I don't know, Rogue versus Mage, it feels like such a great matchup to cast as well, just being selfish here, but I just like casting that matchup.
Yeah, it was always just going to end that way. I'm really glad that it did with the Mage and the Rogue. As we can see here, the bracket coming down there right at the end to Surrender being our champion for Asia Pacific Season 1. We will see him again. We'll see him at the Global Finals at BlizzCon. We'll also see him next season in Grandmasters. He's not going anywhere. He will still be competing, to get a good run. Weirdly enough, he'll be competing to not get relegated as well in Season 2 of Grandmasters. It's still possible that he could be relegated and also go on to the Global Finals at the end. But I think, given the way he's been playing so far, it seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I think Surrender is just one of those players that I will never count out, no matter what is happening. It's like, nope, he can still do it because he's just that good. But we are done for Season 1, as we've been saying, so thanks a lot for watching. Season 1 is not over yet because we do have Europe and Americas to finish off and find out who their entries into the Global Finals are going to be. But from Derek and myself, thanks a lot for watching. We hope you enjoyed Season 1. We'll be back for Season 2. We'll see you then.